Welcome to the January 26, 2022 meeting of the Oceanside City Council. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I'd like to go ahead and start with roll call. Mr. Navarro?
Mayor Sanchez?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kime?
Here.
Councilmember Jensen? Here. Councilmember Rodriguez? Here. And Councilmember Weiss is here in the building.
He is.
Yeah.
Please stand for the invocation. Thank you. Tonight we have Reverend Jason Coker from Oceanside Sanctuary to give us the invocation. Thank you, Pastor Coker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, honorable council members, good evening. I ask that we begin tonight by quieting our hearts and minds to invite the Spirit who encourages our better selves. You join with me? O God, who has made all races to dwell upon the earth as one family, break down the barriers of fear and suspicion that divide us. Build bridges of love and justice which lead us to greet one another as brothers and sisters, to embrace one another in reconciling fellowship. Gathering us hand to hand, lead us to join with you to make this earth fair and life a blessing to all, that in everything your name may be praised forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Coker. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight we have Oceanside Scholastic surf teams in the house. Yeah. They've been doing such a phenomenal job in getting out there and showing how proud they are of Oceanside and being really good ambassadors for the city, so just had to have them come. We're going to begin with the El Camino High School Scholastic surfing team. Guys, come on down. Well, you probably have been reading about these guys, and we have three teams. We have El Camino El Camino High School, Oceanside High School, and Oceanside Middle Schools. So this is really, really exciting. You guys have been just making us proud here, and I want to say that we have a proclamation for each team, and we're actually proclaiming this day their day. Okay, for all three teams, it's your day today. All right? So, beginning with El Camino High School Scholastic Surf Team, Division 5, San Diego County Region 2021 to 2022. Whereas the El Camino High School Scholastic Surf Team, Division 5, players, coaches, families, friends, and supporters has competed incredibly this season as regional competitions at regional competitions in Oceanside, Carlsbad, and San Diego. And whereas team players have displayed leadership, dedication, perseverance, team spirit, and have been positive role models and ambassadors for our city of Oceanside. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Esther Sanchez, on behalf of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim January 26, 2022 as El Camino High School Scholastic Surf Team Day in the City of Oceanside, and urge all Oceanside residents to support these phenomenal young people and their families as they continue to strive for excellence. Congratulations and best wishes. Now, Coach, I'm going to go ahead and give this to you, and I'll also give you the mic so you can say a little bit about what these guys have been able to achieve.
Well, I'm sure glad we told them this was their day at the end of the day, because they probably would have taken the day off to go surfing, first of all. You know, and just on a side note too, there's no ladies here. All my girls play water polo, so they're at a water polo game too. So if you're wondering, where are the girls? But it means so much to our young folks in here, just to give them not only a sense of belonging for the team, but also a sense of community, because these young men and the women who are not here will eventually go on to become members of our community as well. And as they are, like a lot of the coaches are, who have been started out on the small level, now moving up more towards the coaching part or something like that. So anyway, just thank you very much, Esther, for recognizing these kids. And also it's all about the kids. And that's what we're doing, so.
You guys honor us, when you're out there and you're showing how you're able to just compete and then bring home, some of the wins and also everything else that comes with it. So thank you so much, guys.
Great, thank you.
Can we take a picture? Thank you. Thank you. All right, next. Next is Oceanside High School. Come on down. So there's also a proclamation for you. Even though you're sharing in the day-to-day, you all have been doing such a great job too out there. Thank you so much for being out there, for, even during these really, really tough times, you're out there. So this says, and the one of the whereases is the same, but the first one, whereas Oceanside High School Scholastic Surf Team Division II, players, coaches, families, friends, and supporters, is undefeated this season, winning regional competitions at Oceanside, Carlsbad, and San Diego, with one regional and one state competition left in the season, right? So you guys have really rocked it this year. Fantastic. So now therefore be it resolved that today is January 26th, is Oceanside High School Scholastic Surf Team Day in the city of Oceanside. So we're honoring you today, and we're just so thankful that you guys are doing it, showing leadership in our community. So thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and hand this to you, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you for the support, the recognition. They have done really well this season. Last contest, we had 4 of the 6 shortboarders from our team in the final, and that's all of San Diego, all the high schools there in the Division I, Division II. So I'm very proud of them. Thank you for recognizing them. We want to thank Carolyn Kramer for putting on the contest and the Scholastic Surf Series. That we always look forward to doing all the events and being a part of it. So we take pride in showing what we can do and being a part of Oceanside and the youth here. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great big hand for these guys. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Yes, great big hand for OHS. Finally, the Oceanside Middle School Scholastic Surf Team. Come on down, guys. Now, this is the Oceanside Middle School's Scholastic Surf Team Division II. They're from different middle schools throughout Oceanside. And if you see the numbers and the size, they're starting early. Come on down. Yeah. Here we go. And the first whereas here is, whereas the Oceanside Middle School Scholastic Surf Team Division II, players, coaches, families, friends, and supporters, who some of them are here, has dominated these past 2 seasons. Not just this season, but last season, right? So that's pretty phenomenal. In the competitions in Oceanside, Carlsbad, and San Diego. So we are going to declare this day as well, your day. So therefore, January 26, 2022 is Oceanside Middle School's Scholastic Surf Team Day in the city of Oceanside. And I congratulate you guys. Thank you so much for what you do. I mean, you were doing it last year too. Wow, so there are some stories here. The coach? Who's going to be speaking? Okay, here we go. There's some stories here, right?
Thank you, Madam. Oh, it's okay. Thank you very much, Mayor. Really appreciate it. First of all, I would like to thank the kids for showing up here in such strong support, and the parents for bringing them, and the city for recognizing the kids. They're all amazing individuals, and they're going to be great human beings someday. Or great adults. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Yes, they are. But it's all about the kids. We're taking the kids out, surfing with them from beginners to intermediates to advanced, teaching them etiquette, teaching them, doing what we can to make nice, fantastic people. So, and they're doing an excellent job. Jared?
So how young is the youngest one?
It's middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Wow.
So we've got, we have a great revolving team every year.
So last year you guys dominated. What did you do last year?
Won every contest. Yeah. And we're doing it again this year too. So it's really fun. Grace right next to you. I think she's undefeated this year in the women's division, if I remember correctly. So we'll take that. Moon over here just does fantastic in longboard, and she's even dropped in and done some bodyboarding for us as well. So we've got good kids, very versatile, and always willing to do something.
Well, thank you. I would like to have a picture, maybe a couple of you guys can so we can maybe take a knee. So we could, some of your kids. Champions, right? Oceanside, surf, Scholastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. And you're actually excused, so you can actually leave. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by.
One last thing, everybody. Sorry to interrupt.
By the way,
Middle school competing this weekend. We're competing Sunday in South Jetty, the harbor. So if you're available, come on by. We'll see you.
they're competing again this Sunday, Saturday? This Sunday, the harbor. Come on down, watch them and cheer. Thank you, Carolyn Kramer, for getting the kids to come, the teams. And I'm sure that they're going to be coming home victorious. Right, we also have closed session report. Mr. Mullen?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there was no closed session today, so there's no action to report.
Thank you. Consent calendar items 3 through 16. Are there any requests to pull?
There is no request to pull any of the consent calendar items.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to? There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. On to general items. Item number 17. Do we have District Attorney Summer Stefan in the house? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. So this is District Attorney Summer Stefan will be presenting an overview of the upcoming North County Family Justice Center. This matter is being presented as information only, and no action is needed on behalf of the City Council. So Summer. Are you going to stay?
I think the chief is going to say a couple of words.
Yes, he's going to introduce you, yeah. But I wanted to say, didn't we pretty much start off together around the same time at the South Bay Courthouse?
It's been a long journey, and Mayor and council members, it's great to be with you here. I'm Summer Stefan, San Diego County's District Attorney, and which includes Oceanside.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. It is my pleasure to introduce our District Attorney, Summer Stefan, who's here to share with you a vision that she's had for several years that's finally coming to fruition. And as you will hear here in just a few moments, it's one that's really going to provide a high level of service and care for residents of our city as well as residents throughout North County. So, DA Stefan, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Chief Armijo, and I really appreciate your support and your department's support with this. You're a critical part of this. So what I'm excited to present is a dream that I've had for 15 years that is going to become a reality, and that's why I'm comfortable presenting it in April of this year. And it is a regional asset for all of the North County, including Oceanside. It's been in process for many years, as you can imagine, and when you see the expanse of it, you'll, I think, understand that this is really fast by government time. Essentially, as before I became the district attorney, rose through the ranks for 28 years. I was chief of the North County branch for 5 years, and even then, I noticed that there was a disproportionate number of domestic violence homicides in the North region. So as an example, the North region is home to 1 million people, and it has 27% of the domestic violence reports, but yet it has between 42% to up to 46% of the domestic violence murders that are happening in the North County. And we saw this disparity in other numbers like human trafficking, sexual assault, and we asked what could be the issue, why there's excellent police enforcement, but what was lacking was the prevention services for victims to be able to get out of the abusive situation before it turns violent and turns to the ultimate crime, which is murder. And also prevention services for children, for seniors to get out of the abusive situations that they're in. Thus, the Family Justice Center, this is an evidence-based model where you bring services together in one hub and you co-locate all of the services, and I'm going to show you how, and you do it in a trauma-informed manner. And when a victim walks in, they get everything from their forensic exam all the way to housing, shelter, re-education, training, anything that they need to live a free life away from crime and violence and harm. So we have a Family Justice Center in downtown San Diego. However, we saw that this was prohibitive for victims in the North County. It's too far to travel to get the services. And because of the data of why the North County needs this, we began in the North County, although the plan is to regionalize these family justice centers across San Diego. This is a national and an international best model, but it started in San Diego. So One Safe Place is the Family Justice Center, like I talked about, model. It's going to be, the advocates and survivors told us to name it One Safe Place. So that'll be the name. It is a best model for access and equality, and it reduces violence and is proven to reduce homicides. I shared with you the data that compelled me to start in the North County, not because I'm biased since I served as chief here, but because the data says that this is where we should have it. And with the homicides being the most. We also know that not getting those prevention services is a #1 driver for homelessness for women and children. Most data shows that women and children that experience domestic violence or child abuse end up either run away on the street. They may begin by surf couching, but at the end of the day, they end up homeless. And so one big piece and link in this Family Justice Center is to have a very strong homeless connection and navigation. So the promise is to not have anyone walk in and walk out without shelter. We learned today that the county's homeless new body is going to be a partner at the center. We have 50 partners that are committed and 30 that are going to be on site with us in the same place. So we knew that this is what the community needed from a survivor summit that I hosted countywide with 500 participants. And we went to work to make it happen. And I think this graph shows you how many places a victim will need to get restored and get to safety. All those dots are all the different places a victim has to go, and it's simply prohibitive. So it's going to be located in San Marcos because the lease was affordable, and also because it is central for the North County region when we talk to all of law enforcement and our victims. A very important point here is your officers in Oceanside would have had to drive before to Escondido because the advocacy center that does the rape exams, the domestic violence exams, is located currently in Escondido. It is part of Palomar. So now they have to drive a shorter distance because Palomar's child advocacy, forensic services, sexual assault exams are all going to move in and co-locate with us as a major anchor partner in the Family Justice Center. This is everything that will happen there, from case management to police reports being taken to their exam, their forensic domestic violence exam, clothing, food, workforce readiness, educational opportunities, and there'll be a transport vehicle. So even if a victim doesn't want to, seek help at that moment, if later officers tell us to check on her or him, we can take a van and transport them to the Family Justice Center. This is how it looks, and many times when you look at images this beautiful, you think to yourself, it's got to be just a picture. But I promise you, I was there last week, and it looks better than the picture. It is all made from recycled wood, and it has all green. Everything is green, environmental, recycled. As soon as you walk in, you see the hope, healing, and justice, which is the goal of this center. This is the children's waiting room. This is the clothing room where you're going to pick out clothing. So when you leave your sexual assault exam, you don't have to leave with a white robe, which is unacceptable. These are the forensic exams. These are the different kitchens and hubs that where they're going to provide nutrition. The first 5 will be there from the county. This is a training room. That's a 200-person training room that's going to be a regional asset for all of the North County. And the second floor is the law enforcement mezzanine, where the 4 law enforcement agencies can be present at whatever ability that they can: Oceanside, Carlsbad Sheriff's Department, and Escondido Police Department. And this is kind of the floor plan. There is a video, but it kind of shows you the same thing. So, and it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So if you'd rather I take questions, I can do that.
Okay. I do have a question. Summer, is this just for victims of domestic violence, or would this be for other family
Yes.
family members
This
being
is for
victims.
so it's actually, no one is going to be turned away that's a victim of any crime. But it's specifically the services are concentrated around child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking, and elder abuse. And those 30 on-site providers are all specialists in different areas of the victimization I described. So there'll be mental health, immediate trauma care, physical examinations, forensic examinations, START examinations, referral for Palomar is our child advocacy center in the north, like Chadwick, and Rady's is in Central. So they have something called CFSDI. It's a proven modality for trauma intervention at an early age that allows kids to have lower ACEs scores and other things that allow them to thrive. So it's a whole continuum. It's really exciting. Adult protective services is also moving in because, for example, we have a lot of seniors here in the North County, so we really needed to put some attention to elder abuse.
Summer, the kind of cases that I hear about and the kind of requests that I get for help have to do also with kids getting into a fight after school where there's a stabbing or, something like that. And the families are just, it could be someone, an older kid who is still in high school who has a job and is actually trying to help the family. And so with them being out, they actually advise me that they try to call for the Crime Victim Fund to see if there could be any help through that, any kind of medical things like that. And they're always telling me, well, there's just nothing out there. Is this something that could be covered under this program?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So the crime victims programs, like you noted, it's not from us because we like to
Right.
be inclusive. The state says that if you are you brought on something like a fight that you see, a gang fight, then we usually have to fight with them to get that funding for the family. This place doesn't have, it's meant to be that it isn't a wrong door. So it allows people to walk in and they get an assessment. It's an assessment that's evidence-based so that we're not guessing as to what their needs are: mental health, substance abuse, immediate medical intervention, mental health, trauma, whatever the indication is in the assessment, that's where we end up providing them the service. And it's also not dependent on having a report to law enforcement. And so for domestic violence victims who aren't ready to report, they can still get the help and get out of those abusive relationships.
So they don't have to be, for example, compelled to, say, testify in a case. They actually can still
That's
receive
right.
help outside of that.
That's right, Mayor, yes. And there's also Casa Cornelia is one of our on-site partners, and it'll provide also care for immigrants that may be concerned about other consequences to assist them in the journey.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Really quick, thank you for that presentation, Attorney Stefan. Who is chartering and funding this operation?
My office is providing most of the funding for this. It is the cost of crime and the recidivism and violence to victims is at a very high cost. We know that from an early age, when kids witness domestic violence, they suffer abuse. The cost of keeping them healthy, keeping them in school, not sending them down a track of criminal activity is very high. So we have the ability, there's certain funds that are allocated for innovative community investment. And we determined that we wanted to allocate it in this way. And the Board of Supervisors approved it, so everything goes through our County Board of Supervisors. We were just very excited that we could do this.
No, it sounds like it's been a long time and needed, and I'm really glad to hear this is coming forth. I just wanted to understand the practical side of this is going to cost a lot of money to operate and run, and just the sustainability of it for victims in the future. I didn't know how far this was allocated out, but it sounds like you have all those dynamics in line.
Yeah, I mean, we have a long-term plan for it,
Good.
and you know, it's a priority for me. So I hope that we're going to build it out where it lasts. You know, we have a 12-year lease, a long-term lease, and at the same time, we'll keep looking for maybe a permanent building. We'll gather data.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Weiss?
Thank you for the presentation. Just two things real quick. Are there any further actions the Board of Supervisors or the City of San Marcos have to take in order for you to begin doing all the tenant improvements to get operating?
No, everything is done, and I just visited recently. Everything is a go. The finishing touches are being put on it. It's supposed to open at the end of April.
This April.
This April.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. We'd love to have you all at the ribbon cutting, obviously.
Deputy Mayor Keim?
Just want to say thank you for taking the time in the presentation and being so proactive. I know this has been a priority of yours, and I think we're very lucky to have such an experienced and dedicated chief prosecutor here, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Jensen?
Yes, I too wanted to thank you for that presentation. This is so necessary and such an unspoken component of homelessness that we don't often talk about. And it's great to know that there's going to be a facility in San Marcos for these victims. And I had a question, are police officers going to transport victims there if they don't have vehicles? How's that going to work?
So police officers now, like Chief Armijo's team, they're very busy. When they get a report of sexual assault or molest, child abuse, or a domestic violence, they already transport the victim, but they transport them to a big street in Escondido where Palomar has its nurses and its forensic health and its forensic exams where you look through a window while a child is not being examined by a police officer, but by a certain health certified provider to get the information. They're already doing that transport. The really great thing about this is the handoff. Once they do that, then it's not like there's nothing else that's going to happen for that victim. The victim then gets surrounded by all those other services that make sure that he don't go back into that same abusive relationship because they can't pay rent or they can't afford. All of the other comprehensive services are there for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're going to be coordinating with Oceanside Women's Resource Center, Vista Community Clinic, all the partners?
Absolutely.
Great.
The Women's Center is committed to actually be present also at the center. So yes, we've visited, talked with everyone. There's a buzz. The survivor and also the victim provider community has needed this for a long time, and they're invested and ready to go.
And you'll be doing a report maybe a year out to talk about the success?
We're tracking every data point. This is kind of how we've run everything we've done, and we'll be so happy to come back and provide that data in a year or so.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I see no other lights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Armijo, for being such a great partner.
Chief Armijo, did you want to add anything at all?
Just for context, the types of crime victims, the numbers in our city, this particular facility has the potential to serve upwards of 1,100 of our residents when you aggregate the total quantity of crimes that will be serviced there. So I think this is going to be huge for our city. And it's just another example of the great partnership that we have.
1,100 over the period of 1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. When you combine domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, all of those, and you aggregate that together with some elder abuse, it's a significant number.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next is item 18, and that is approval of a purchase and sale agreement with the Oceanside Unified School District in the amount of $3.3 million for the purchase of a 3-acre parcel located at the old Garrison Elementary School site, that's 333 Garrison Street, for use as the El Corazon Sewer Lift Station, authorization for a budget appropriations in an amount not to exceed the $3.4 million for the acquisition of real property and due diligence expenditures, authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents, authorization for the city clerk to accept the grant deed for the property, and authorization for staff to open escrow and consummate the closing of the transaction. We have a report by Vicki Gutierrez, real estate manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Honorable Mayor, and council members. My name is Vicki Gutierrez. I'm the real estate manager for the Public Works Department. And as the mayor mentioned, the item before you is the purchase and sale agreement with the Oceanside Unified School District for the acquisition of a portion of the former Garrison Elementary School located at 333 Garrison Street. Sorry about that, technical difficulty. The synopsis is staff recommends that the City Council approve the purchase and sale agreement with the Oceanside School District in the amount of $3,003,000 for the purchase of the 3-acre portion located at 333 Garrison Street for use as the El Corazon Sewer Lift Station, authorized budget appropriations in amount not to exceed $3,400,000 for the acquisition of the real property and due diligence expenditures, authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents, authorize the city clerk to accept the grant deed for the property, and authorize staff to open escrow and consummate the closing of the transaction. In July of 2020, the school district notified the city that of their intent to sell a surplus property located at 333 Garrison Street, the former Garrison Elementary School. It's an 11.2-acre parcel containing numerous existing buildings and modular units that were originally used as classrooms, and they are no longer in use. The property is vacant. Property is zoned public, semi-public, and medium-density residential with a general plan designation of civic institutional medium-density residential C. The property is centrally located. Its adjacent properties include multifamily apartment communities and single-family homes. In September of 2020, council authorized staff to enter into negotiations with the district for the acquisition of the property, subject to doing an appraisal to determine the market value, and they authorized due diligence investigations. The city's use of the 3-acre parcel is as a sewer lift station, and it's allowed under the zoning subject to the issuance of a conditional use permit. District recently selected a developer who desires to purchase the remaining 8.2-acre portion of the property from the district and ultimately develop the remaining site with either single-family or multifamily homes. The district and its development partner understand that the ability to develop in the balance of the site with residential uses is subject to a discretionary review process by the Planning Commission and City Council, including a general plan amendment and change of zoning. This depiction shows you the entire site. There's 2 parcels, and this depiction actually shows you, this layout shows you the portion that the city is planning to purchase. We you'll see a kind of a narrower edge. That's more of the access into the area where, to the more northernmost of that picture, where the lift station will be developed on, and we're planning a 3-acre parcel. So district's appraisal was updated as of September 2021, and it indicated a value of $13.5 million for the entire property. And the appraisal reflects a potential density of approximately 135 units, which is 12.05 units per acre for the property. That's a conservative estimate based on the density of the surrounding residential uses. That resulted in a valuation of $3,616,071 for the 3-acre parcel the city desires to purchase. And after several offers and counteroffers, a purchase price of $3,300,000 was reached and accepted by staff on January 12th of this year, subject to council's approval. The due diligence expenditures will not exceed $100,000, including review of title, preparing legal descriptions and plats for the 2 succinct parcels, Phase 1 environmental assessment, and remaining closing items. The terms and conditions of the acquisition between the city and the district are, again, the purchase price of the $3,300,000. We'll open escrow within 3 business days following the agreement opening being approved, and we have a refundable deposit of $30,000. We have a 90-day due diligence period, and if we get approval tonight, that will extend to April 25th of 2022. And escrow would close, after the close of the due diligence, would close within 60 days, no later than June 25th, 2022, unless extended. The city shall enter into a cooperation agreement with the district and its development partners prior to close of the acquisition of the parcel, and staff will bring the cooperation agreement back to council at a later date for approval, but prior to closing of acquiring the 3-acre parcel. So the cooperation agreement will generally include, city agrees to review the timeline of the sewer lift station construction and the residential developer construction timeline, just to identify efficiencies between the 2 properties or opportunities for coordination. And the city is under no obligation to delay our construction of the sewer lift station to accommodate the development that the developer is bringing in. The city will prioritize plan review through final engineering to the extent that it's feasible and practical, with the goal of 3 plan checks for any plans. We've agreed to development of a tentative schedule of planning approvals, and we'll meet with the development team within 5 business days should an agreed upon timeframe not be achieved. And lastly, they've asked us to concurrently process the final engineering documents with the tentative map, if that's desirable to this developer and at the developer's own risk. So again, the district and its development partner do understand that the city has full discretion over the review of any future residential development proposed on the remaining 8.2-acre parcel. So our recommendation is to approve a purchase and sale agreement with the Oceanside Unified School District in the amount of $3,300,000 for the purchase of the 3-acre parcel located at 333 Garrison Street for use as the El Corazon lift station. Authorized budget appropriations in an amount not to exceed $3,400,000 for the acquisition of the real property and due diligence expenditures. Authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. Authorize the city clerk to accept the grant deed for the property, and authorize staff to open escrow and consummate the closing of the transaction. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any requests from the public to speak?
We have no requests from the public to speak on this item.
Thank you. Well, I do know that the school district was driving a hard bargain, right? I mean, it would have been great for the city to have bought the whole parcel and planned it out in terms of housing, affordable housing. But that, what was it, $13 million asking was, didn't that go up from like 8 to like 13?
It was originally much lower from the initial appraisal to where we ended up, because the market has shifted a lot, and the developer, what they're going to develop, has driven the price up. So,
right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move approval. Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second. No other requests to speak. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have any
thank you.
Requests to speak from the public on items not on this agenda? That's item number 23.
Yes, we do. We have 4 requests to speak from members of the public. Our first speaker is Mary Ellen Reese, to be followed by Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Robert Walker.
Hi, Honorable Mayor, council members. I'm Mary Ellen Reese of the League of Women Voters, North County, and I'm here to read a statement by Karen Sutton, who is president of the League. I'm writing to express our opposition to the City Council's decision to end the option for virtual participation at City Council meetings. While the council continues to live stream the meetings for viewing, this does not address our fundamental concern, allowing virtual public input. We request that you place this issue on your next agenda so you can reconsider this decision. We believe providing an option for virtual public input during a pandemic is good for both the residents and the City Council of Oceanside. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization with a 100-year history of working to ensure informed and active participation of citizens in government. Evidence shows that the move to virtual meetings for legislative bodies leads to increased public participation. Every member of the public who provided testimony at the recent workshop commented on the benefits of virtual meetings and the success of the technology. All speakers requested the City Council continue virtual meetings, correctly emphasizing the key issues, increased participation, transparency, and trust, as well as minimizing risk to public health and safety. Rather than addressing these concerns, the City Council voted to discontinue virtual public participation, largely based on staff input regarding potential technical problems. The City Council should be putting the health and safety of Oceanside residents and public participation before concerns of staff inconvenience. We encourage you to consider the public's comments more seriously, all of whom pointed out the connection between access, transparency, and trust. We hope to see an item on your next meeting agenda that will allow you to restore virtual public input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I hope that in the future here, that on the future agenda, that you would schedule the safe sidewalks and crossing in South Oceanside. This has been a discussion that's been going on for quite some time, and we have not had an update on that, nor on the update onto the Buccaneer Park crossing and Coast Highway. If that could be done, that would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Normally, I would start by honoring the chair of the mayor, but in good conscience, I cannot do that.
You're Mr. Robert Walker?
Yes, my name
Thank
is
you.
Bob Walker. I was going to tell you. Honorable City Council members, my name is Bob Walker. I live in Oceanside. And thank you for understanding, City Council members, for understanding and acting on the issues that Oceanside faces in regards to restoring and preserving its beaches. Please do not feel defeated by the clogs that Esther Sanchez has repeatedly created and gone out of her way to stop the city from preserving its beaches. If listeners do not understand what I'm talking about, I encourage that they log into the City of Carlsbad. Yes, the City of Carlsbad's City Council meeting, January 11th, item number 12. After you understand, or after you will understand after you listen to Esther Sanchez speak. We all understand that she is alone pursuing her own agenda of managed retreat. Managed retreat is a philosophy that everyone can learn about by Googling the item managed retreat. Essentially, it just means that let nature take its course and our beaches will be, let nature take its courses on the beaches and be sure to remove all the items off and structures off the beach so nature does not take it out to sea. 20 years ago, the city of Oceanside had launched larger had much larger beaches, and the city council had active roles in trying to preserve our beaches. Today, South Oceanside is known as a waterfront community, not a beachfront community. Esther Sanchez has been in office for 22 years, which is about the same time our city started the policy of neglect our beaches. Please remember not what Esther says, think about what she does. City council members, please keep up your good work. We appreciate it. Oceanside is counting on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Arlene Hammerschmidt?
Good evening, Council. Arlene Hammerschmidt from rural-ish Fire Mountain. I have a question. Do we want the public to participate in the public's business or not? We're supposed to. The public is supposed to not only have access to, but participate easily in the public's business, which is what we all elected you for. So if the priority is for public to participate, let's do that every possible way we can. 2 weeks ago, I spoke to the same subject because it feels like public just would like to, council would like to just disregard public and make us go away. And then at the end of the meeting, and council meeting, as I was coming down the elevator, and in the little landing after the elevator, Congressman Keim, maybe Mr. Keim informed me that we can't have hybrid meetings because Zeb gets yelled at, and we can't have open meetings because they're a liability. However, what can we do? There's something else in there that we can do, possibly Zoom. You all get here and the public is on Zoom. I mean, maybe we can't include everybody and make a complete access for everyone. However, I'm sure we can do better than this. I'm sure that we can do better than this. It's like, it's not always an either or situation. We can't do this, we can't do this. What can we do? Please reconsider that vote. Thank you.
Thank you. No other requests to speak from the public? Okay, great. So item number 24 is adoption of ordinances. Adoption of 2 ordinances amending various sections of Chapter 13 of the Oceanside City Code pertaining to solid waste and recycling services, and Chapter 37, Article 7, related to water-efficient landscape regulations. There's a motion to move adoption. There's a second. Please title the ordinance, Mr.
Thank you.
Muller.
This is I'll do both with one vote. This is the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 13, revising miscellaneous provisions in the solid waste and recycling ordinance, as well as the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 37, revising water-efficient landscaping regulations.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have any general council member comments at this time? Councilmember Weiss?
Yes, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank both Police Chief Armijo and Deputy Mayor Keim for sending letters to the governor's office in regards to the parole of Eric Merrim, who was convicted of a very heinous murder here in Oceanside, the killing of one of our residents. It's very impressive that the two of them took the opportunity to send those letters. I understand our assembly person and also our state senator sent letters on behalf as well. To be getting out after such a little bit of time for such a heinous crime is very disappointing, and I hope he does not get parole. And I would also say I'm disappointed. I wish the mayor would have done something similar with a letter, but I want to thank the chief and the deputy mayor.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I was not available, and that's why I asked that staff contact Councilmember Deputy Mayor Keim. So thank you very much. Unfortunately, I had a leak in the house that, but it was a very strange case. Unfortunately, it was only a second degree So that is why he's eligible for parole. Deputy Mayor Kime?
I think there would have been a way to sign it if there was the desire. And that's what I'm concerned about tonight. And it's poignant now that we had DA Summer Stefan here with the Domestic Violence Center. Just to put it in perspective, we had a woman in our city who was murdered in 2005 by her boyfriend. And now 16 years later, he is eligible for parole. So I wish we all could have stood together and made that a point. It's unfortunate that happened, but we're going to stand strong and make sure that we are voices for our victims of domestic violence and their family. So thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take a break for 5 minutes to 6 o'clock. Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and resume City Council meeting and begin with the public hearing items, starting with item number 19. Item 19 being presentation of a report from Q2 Data and Research LLC on the 2020 Decennial Census data to redraw the City Council district boundaries in accordance with California Elections Code, Section 21621, and receive public testimony on the composition of districts for City Council offices. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from the council members regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff, several members of the public, and I participated briefly in the community meeting last Saturday.
Staff and public.
Staff, public, and I have been attending the meetings.
Staff, public.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, as the city clerk, have you received any correspondence and or petitions?
We have not received any correspondence on this item.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and begin with testimony from you, Mr. Navarro, our city clerk.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and council members, we are here for our second public hearing regarding the redistricting process. The city clerk's office conducted 2 community meetings, one in District 4 on Saturday and another one in District 1 at the Civic Center Library Community Rooms last Wednesday. We have 2 more additional meetings, but tonight we have our demographer, Karen McDonald, to provide an update on the redistricting process of communities of interest and public input. So I will let her take it away.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and members of the City Council. It's great to be here. I have a couple of presentations for you. One is a brief presentation. It's a briefer presentation than the one I gave last time, so it's basically just a shorter one, just reminding everybody of the general criteria and so forth. And then the second part of this presentation will be an overview of the communities of interest that we have received, that we've mapped. So we'll walk you through those, or I will walk you through those. We have those in some separate slides. And then hopefully after that, what we're trying to do today is perhaps get some guidance from you for some visualizations that we might be able to develop for you for the next time. Just perhaps some of the input that you're receiving, or maybe some of the communities of interest, if you'd like to see them mapped in some fashion. If you'd like to give me that direction, then we'll come back, show you some maps next time, and then you can live draw if you'd like, and basically we're moving slowly but surely toward a draft map.
When is the next council meeting again?
I have this on a slide in, I'm sorry.
February 9th.
Okay, great, thanks.
And that slide's also coming up, so thank you for that question. And with that, I will be going through this PowerPoint, this first PowerPoint, very quickly. And for those of you who were here last time, this is available, this PowerPoint and my presentation is available on the city's website. And I went into more detail than I will be going into today. I don't want to make all of you fall asleep, so I'll be going quickly. All right, so again, today's agenda very quickly, an introduction and background, criteria for redistricting. We'll talk about communities of interest, and we hope to get some more input from all of you here. We'll talk about how to get involved, and then the process timeline. So again, introduction. In 2017, as many of you know, the city transitioned from at-large to by-district elections for city council. And now the city of Oceanside elects city council members by district, so not at large, which is what we did before. The members of the city council now must live in their district to be able to represent that district, and voters in each district, of course, elect the city council member for that district. For this particular process, we have mapping criteria. We get those criteria from the Fair Maps Act, which was adopted in 2019. It became law for the entire state of California. And these criteria are ranked in order of priority. I'm going to just check them off really quickly to remind everybody. The first criterion is compliance with the US and California constitutions, of course. And mostly what we talk about there is equal population. So the requirement that all the districts must be equally populated by the time we're done. The second criterion is compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which addresses racial and language minority groups. The third criterion is contiguity, basically that the districts need to be in one piece. So each district needs to be connected. 4 is respect for local neighborhoods and communities of interest, and that means that the council shall make an effort to keep local neighborhoods and communities of interest together and not split them. And this is partially why we're here tonight, because we want to hear from everybody about where your communities of interest are and perhaps where your neighborhoods are, so that there's a higher chance of not inadvertently dividing them with the district line. Communities of interest, one thing to keep in mind is they cannot include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. That is pretty much the only exclusion that you have for defining a community of interest. 5th is that boundaries should be easily identifiable and understandable. 6th is compactness, and that pretty much means don't bypass nearby populations for further away people. So basically don't reach when you're building these districts. And compactness is our 6th criterion, and again, these criteria are ranked. And compactness has this little exclusion that it says you shall draw compact districts if it doesn't conflict with the preceding criteria. And that basically means if you have a neighborhood that has a strange shape that you're trying to keep together, and you're kind of bypassing nearby population, that's actually higher ranked. So you could still do that and still be in compliance with the Fair Maps Act. And then finally, don't favor or discriminate against political parties. That is the nod of the Fair Maps Act, to kind of try to keep politics out of the very, previously very political process of redistricting. This is to our first criterion, because first and foremost, we will have to draw equally populated districts. The ideal population for each district in Oceanside is 43,645 people. So this is people as enumerated by the census. It's not people that are 18 years old. It's not citizens. It's not registered voters. It's everybody who was enumerated or counted in the last census. And that, of course, was the census of 2020. So this is what we call an over-under map. Why is it called that? It's called that because what we did is we put the existing district lines onto a map, and then we merged in the new census data. And that then told us how much the districts are either overpopulated or underpopulated. And that is about the first criterion of redistricting. Because looking at this map, we now know roughly which way the districts would have to move in order to rebalance them or bring them into compliance with the equal population criterion. So what we have currently is that District 1, which is the blue one, is 8.82% underpopulated. So that district would have to pick up population to become equally populated. District 2 is okay. It is very close to the ideal population, and it's only overpopulated by 0.39%. And I should have said that in the end, we should end up within plus minus 5% of the ideal population. So anything that you see that is between plus minus 5%, in theory, you would not have to touch it. However, if you have one district that's negative 8.82%, in order to bring that into equal population, you would have to touch other districts, obviously. So irrespective of whether they are perfectly populated or not, necessarily, you cannot necessarily leave them alone. So District 3 is 4.51% over the ideal population, and District 4 is 0.391% above the ideal population. Criterion 4, again, this is what we're hoping to get some input on today, and also to all of you who have participated in the last couple of meetings and have given input. We're very grateful for that. Local neighborhoods and communities of interest, they are specific, of course, to each jurisdiction. There is not just some magic data set that you can get that tells you for each jurisdiction where all the neighborhoods are, even though some people, some social media companies think that they do know where all the neighborhoods are. Usually people on the ground beg to differ, at least on some of these. And communities of interest most certainly need to be defined by people that actually live in the communities or that work in the communities, because this is a very specific topic for redistricting, and that is not something that is generally available. So the laws do not limit the kinds of interests that can bind a community to make a community of interest. And again, we really need your help to define communities of interest. Communities of interest could be about a current situation or common goals. And I'll go through a couple of examples here. In California, we often divide common interests up into two big brackets. One is economic and the other one is social. And I'll give you some examples about what we generally hear people talk about when they think about their communities of interest. People talk about common employment in their communities or economic opportunities or a lack of economic opportunities. And people sometimes are working together to expand opportunities in the area that they live in. They work on development, perhaps, bringing in certain businesses or employers and so forth. For social interests, and this, of course, will probably resonate with a lot of you because that's what we hear a lot from others throughout the state of California, is that people really organize and think of their community of interest when it comes to schools, when it comes to shared culture or shared heritage, sometimes transportation hubs or so. If you're living next to a big transportation hub, then that is sometimes something that people organize around, and that becomes a community of interest. And then parks, for example. Sometimes people live around a park and they take it upon themselves to make sure that the park's well taken care of. There's activism around it and so forth. And then goals could be improving recreational opportunities or public safety, for example. There's neighborhood watch groups, for example, that are sometimes defined, or they've defined themselves as communities of interest. Also, perhaps preserving a historic area, people that live in an older part of town and they feel like that is their community of interest. And oftentimes neighborhoods are thought of as communities of interest. So how do you document your community of interest? Think about these questions like what bonds your community, what defines your COI, what is your mission, what's your commonality? If it's a neighborhood group, oftentimes you know what the top 5 things are that you're all working on, and you could, for example, think about it that way and just talk about, what's different inside of your neighborhood, what's different outside of your neighborhood, and that can help you determine where the boundaries are if you don't know that off the top of your head. And you could get us a map, please. With the boundaries, you could use Google Maps. We have instructions on the website. You could use a GIS, Geographic Information System, mapping program, or just paper. Or you could just write it down for us, write down the boundaries. The state has a community of interest tool. It's called Draw My CA Community. And that can also be used to, if you're somebody who likes to work with computers and online programs, that's definitely a resource that's also available. And again, on the city's website, we have instructions. We would really appreciate hearing from you by February 10. about your community of interest so that the city council can consider it in their draft maps. There's also an online access tool for those of you who like to work online and like to use computers. So the city has made a free online mapping application available. You can get there from the city's website. This is an online mapping tool that allows everybody to create digital maps, basically. So you can redistrict on your own the entire city of Oceanside, and then you can send that map over for consideration. Proposals developed with the online mapping tool can be submitted. We will show them to the city council. It will be part of the public input. The tool also allows people to view census geography and then the data that is associated with the census geography. So as you're building your districts, you can see how many people, for example, are in there. The website is on here. It is called https://redraw.myoceanside.publicredistricting.com. And if you need help, and please don't be shy because this is a new tool for all of us. So if you need help or you get stuck or you just want somebody to really just walk you through, please just email us. So email support@publicredistricting.com and we will get back to you and we'll set up a time to help you. Or if you have a question, just email it to us and we will answer. So again, this is all on the website. Let me just make sure I didn't skip anything. I did not. So why should you participate in this process? Of course, to make sure that we know about your community of interest so it doesn't get inadvertently split. To give your community a voice, make sure it has equal access to the political process. To encourage citizens to register, vote, and remain politically and civically engaged. And to help shape a redistricting plan that provides your community a meaningful opportunity to elect candidates that will represent your interests on issues that are important to you. How do you get involved? You can testify. Thank you for being here tonight. Please tell us, about your communities and any input that you have. You can submit written testimony, send supporting information to the city. And again, February 10 will be a great time to get communities for the first round of maps to us. You can submit information here by mail or drop it off at the city clerk's office, via email at redistricting@oceansideca.org. So it's pretty catchy, easy to remember email. And via phone, 760-435-3001. And then there's our website, which you can get to from the homepage on the Oceanside website. It's oceansidega.us/gov/elections/redistricting_2022.asp. And there is a way to get to this a lot easier than typing this in. And with this, here is our timeline overview. We have already had some meetings. We had one meeting, of course, on January 12th here. Then we had a couple of outreach meetings, and thank you again to all of those who participated and who gave input. One was on Wednesday, January 19th at the Civic Center Library Community Rooms. One was on Saturday, January 22nd at El Corazon. And today, of course, we're here at City Council Chambers to hopefully get some direction from the City Council on how to develop some maps for your review next time, some visualizations. And then we meet again on February 2nd for another community outreach meeting, February 5, another community outreach meeting. So as you see, there are plenty of opportunities to participate. And then we come back here on February 9th for another public hearing and look at some visualizations and hopefully do some live line drawing here with the City Council with all of you involved. The next public hearing then continues on February 23rd, and if all goes well, our last meeting will be on March 9. And there will all be, throughout this process, there will be plenty of opportunity to provide additional feedback. So now we're going to go to the second part of this presentation, which is the mapped communities of interest that were provided by by participants. And so thank you very much to everybody who did participate. What we did was we tried to digitize your input. We hope that we got it all right, because a lot of it was basically you telling us what you wanted us to map. And if you see something that looks like your map and it sounds like your map, but it's just a little bit off, please just email us, because we're very happy to correct it. So we did our best with this. So that was my caveat. We received 13 unique communities of interest through 125, and they were submitted via email, the online form, and the 2 community workshops. So here's our first. This is, so basically that red shaded area is, just 1 second, I'm gonna pull my notes up. Okay, the red shaded area is called the coastal community of interest. What it includes is everything west of the I-5, and this area was identified as sharing interests and various issues. So that was one. Let me go to the next one. And some of these, I should just also tell you, actually, let me just go back for the members of the City Council. So this particular quarry, what you see there is that I don't know if this does not work, unfortunately. Okay, the pointer does not work on the screen, unfortunately, so I apologize. The fat black line right in the middle, that's Oceanside Boulevard, so that is the dividing line, of course, between districts 1 and 3. So what you see there is that this quarry reaches across these 2 districts. So it basically would split these 2 districts. And there's about 18,000 people in this community of interest, so just for reference.
Not big enough.
The next one is the Pozole Center Avenue Community of Interest. They would like to be kept together in District 1, please. So again, these are the red shaded areas here, and they're currently in District 1, and they'd like to stay there, please, and together. This next one is the Seaside Neighborhood Community of Interest, and they are currently all in District 1, so they're not split. They are a community of interest. They want to stay together. Their common interest is that there is single-family zoning, and they share housing and rental interests. This next community of interest is the South Oceanside and Fire Mountain Community of Interest. They have told us that they share the same schools and a more rural quality of life. And you can see that this is all included in District 3. This is also a pretty large quarry with about 13,000 people. And this is the same quarry as on the previous slide, but more. There is more to it. So this one is called the South Oceanside, Fire Mountain, Loma Alta, and Seaside Community of Interest. And this community of interest, so this input was to please keep all of these 4 neighborhoods together in one district. So they did not specify which district they want to be in. They just said they would like to stay together in one of the districts. And let me see, that has about 31,000 people in it. So it's very large. So on slide 7, we have the Canyon, Apple, and Greenbrier Community of Interest. They would like to be kept together in District 1, please, and it's actually the blue shaded area. The greenish shaded area is that's just part of the mapping program, so that's a park area or an open area. So it's the blue shaded area that is the community of interest. So they would like to be kept together in District 1, which is where they are right now, and they say that they, for example, share the same schools. Did I skip one? I did skip one. This one is the Island Community of Interest. So this is the area north of San Luis River. They're only accessible via the 2 bridges over there, and you can see that the river is the dividing line there. They are currently in District 1, and they would like to be in District 2, please. And let me see, that one has about 4,500 people in it. Next is the River Tree Community of Interest, and this is a little funny one. There is a tiny little piece of this neighborhood that was split off. It's the northwestern piece. You see that little bulb out right there? That was cut off by the district line, and I think that may have been an artifact of the census geography last time. So this was, the census corrected, if that's what it was, the geography, and that could be included in District 1 rather easily. So this is also a smaller version of the island koi right there, but basically they just want to make sure that they're kept together right there, and that will be very easy to do. Slide number 10 has two separate communities of interest, and we just put them onto the same slide to just cut down on slides. So one is the Los Arbolitos koi, that is the green one. So that community of interest would like to stay in District 2 with Libby Lake, which is very close by. And then there's the San Luis Rey koi, which is the yellow one on the right side there, and that is a mobile home community that would like to be kept together with other mobile home communities that have the 55 and older population in them. And we have one more, and this is the Oceana koi. People that submitted this one, and you can see that this one is also split between two districts. It's between District 1 and District 4. They would like to keep all of the 7 of the Oceanas, including Oceana Missions on Old Grove Road, to be kept together. And they have said that they share interests as retirees and as seniors. And that koi has about 12,000 people in it. So that is what we have for you. No, we have one more. There we go. I'm sorry. One more. This is the Blue Ridge Aztec koi. And this, they have suggested that this neighborhood could really be moved from District 4 to District 3. And it's a very small little community right there. So if there's a necessity to move something from one district to the other for population, to balance population, they would be willing volunteers. So, one more. And then we have Ventana at El Corazon, and this is a community of about 70 townhomes. They would also like to stay together, and one of the comments was that they could be moved into D1 if necessary. They would also volunteer to do that, so that there was some testimony from different people, and one comment said that it could go into District 1. So lots of options, and that is it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have requests to speak? This is actually a public hearing.
Yeah.
So
We have 4 registered requests to speak.
why don't we go ahead and start with them?
Our first request is from Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Arlene Hammerschmidt, to be followed by Tom Demoy, to be followed by Kathleen Justice.
First, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane, also a representative of Los Salina Mobile Village. First, I want to remind you what our current councils are looking like. You have District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 4. I attended the District 4 hearing, and the reason why was very simple. And that is, as the representative of my area, I have an interest, and this is on the next map. As you recognize there are the watersheds within our city. And the city is basically that of the gold area that defines our city. And I live basically within feet, and my park is within feet of the pink area is the Loma Alta Creek area. And as I have been educated over the years by Council Representative Weiss, he knows about, very simple, about imperviousness of the soil. Any community that takes and develops an imperviousness that affects the drainage into those watersheds. Now, his basically district affects my district. And so what happens is that if he's pro-development within his district, what will take and happen is it will affect my district, which is affected on the Loma Alta Creek. So what needs to take place is a superseding point of this watersheds. The watersheds need to be superseded of all, districts, and it needs to be considered, and that needs supersedes all plans for any district. I urge you to have a plan of superseding districts, and those are plans there of called watersheds. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll submit this map to the city clerk.
Thank you. I was just about to ask you for that. Arlene Hammerschmidt?
Good evening, council and everybody at home. I would like to share, this is like not a district thing. It's actually, well, it is. 2 summers ago, I dug into the charter, the history of the Oceanside City Charter. And what I found in there was the first charter commission, public commission, citizens commission, had what I think is a great idea, and you may also. That is to have a 7-member council, 4 districts elected and represented, an at-large mayor, and 2 at-large council members. And this comes up now because we're hearing that it feels like from many, I'm hearing from people in the public, that decisions are made primarily on and for the district that y'all represent, which is normal. Those are the people that elected you, right? Not at large. But we've lost the at-large view. So just throwing out on the table, yes, it would take a charter change in the charter, but just something to think about. Maybe we could do this better. Have 4 districts and at-large council members, as well as an at-large mayor. The rest of my specific district comments I will put into, the right avenue. And I want to also give kudos to our, to Mr. Zeb Navarro and his staff. This is the most well-run, organized, inclusive, attempted to be inclusive of all Oceanside residents, far exceeding the one that we did, 5 years ago. So thank you to the clerk's office. And just think about it, 2 elected at-large council members. Everybody think on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom DeMoy? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name. To be followed by Kathleen Justice.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Good evening. My name's Tom DeMoy. I live in Heather Lane in District 3. I'm just saying that I was at the meeting last week, and they're on the redistricting. And if it's my thing is that if it's not broken, don't break it. these four districts have been working for the last 4 years. We don't need to retweak or redesign the four districts. There's some people that live in District 3 who want to completely take the entire beach and make a super district out of it. Everything works. Just tweak a little bit on the residents and make the numbers match. Don't change the configuration of the boundaries. Just make the minor corrections. There's no need to make any drastic changes. The district, the boundaries, they work. Like I said, I'm from District 3, and everything is good. I like the four. We don't need any more council members. We don't need 7. We don't even need 9 members. So again, if it's not broken, don't break it. Don't change it. Keep it basically the same and just tweak the numbers. And, District 1 needs more people. So thank you very much. You guys have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Kathleen Justice?
Kathleen Justice. I live in the Seaside district. I went to one of the meetings and zoomed in, and I was kind of excited about using the map tool, but I had a lot of trouble with it. So I emailed the correct redistricting email, and I was told that I could ask for help and they would forward it, but I never heard back from anybody. Is there really going to be somebody that could help some of us that might need some extra help? Yes. And how do we go about making sure we get that? Because I never heard back. It was last Thursday that I emailed.
I'm just going to pause your time. We'll answer all your questions once you're done. We don't want to we don't want to eat into your time. But yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But to answer your question.
That was my question.
Yes. We will have office hours with our demographer. Those will be virtual. And you could also come into my office and I could help you with a map.
Okay,
And I've already done that for 2 people. And they just told me where they want the boundaries to be, and I just did it for them.
Okay.
And then we submitted it to our demography team. So we have many ways to help you. And if you didn't get a response, I apologize for that.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
So I could just contact your office?
You could contact my office directly, or you could attend office hours, which I believe we have posted on our website yet. We will have it posted.
Okay.
And those are all virtual, but if you prefer someone one-on-one, in person, my office is always here to help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. You do not have to have submitted a slip to speak, so if you'd like to speak at this time, please approach one of the mics and give your name, and then you could speak for up to 3 minutes. I see no one rising, so I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the hearing. And this is receiving the presentation. Of course, we're not going to be taking a vote until the next meeting, right? We're going to start making some comments. But at this time, I believe demographer Ms. McDonald is asking for some direction. Does anybody wish to give direction? For example, at the next meeting, do we want to see a couple of maps, maybe 3 maps, to kind of see how they comply with all the requirements? Is that something that we would like to see? Yeah. Councilmember Rodriguez.
So are you asking for feedback and direction?
Yes, she is asking that, yes.
I agree with the last speaker. I think the shapes are good. We just need to repopulate them. So maybe a few variations of, taken from here, taken from there to give District 1 the population.
Is your microphone on?
I'm so sorry. I'll repeat it. So the shapes that are in existence, I think we should, attempt to stick with and just show at least 2 or 3 variations of taking from districts to correctly populate District 1, and then we can examine it that way, just maybe 2 or 3 variations of getting those populations correct within that 0.5% threshold.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kime.
Yeah, mine comments are similar. So my district has the most out of all 4, and then I border the district with the least. So that would clearly make sense to work on that and see if there's any place on our border that we could work and redistribute some of those numbers if that's needed. So.
Thank you. And my request is that you continue to listen to the comments and provide assistance in terms of, how do you produce communities of interests, either just language or the maps, and continue to do that. That would be great. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is item number 20, and this is another public hearing item, adoption of a resolution approving a regular coastal permit to allow an 81 square foot addition to an existing 146 square foot west-facing balcony of a single-family residence located at 604 South The Strand. It's 604 South The Strand Remodel. The applicants are Robert and Debbie Bremer. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing, request the disclosures from, and we are sitting as a commission, so of our council members who are sitting as commissioners, so request disclosures regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff and I went by the site.
Just staff report.
Staff and actually only a couple of public members.
Staff, and I'm very familiar.
Is it on?
Staff.
Yeah, okay. Do we, Secretary, Mr. City Clerk, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
We have not received any correspondence on this item.
Okay. I'm going to begin with testimony from Richard Greenbauer, our principal planner.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Kime, distinguished council members and members of the public in attendance this evening. The first item in front of you is a very minor project, so I'll be very quick with this presentation. And it is a regular coastal permit for a property down on the Strand. Due to the location and the appeal jurisdiction of the California Coastal Commission, it does require that this body take action on a coastal permit. As previously stated, it is a very minor addition, an 81 square foot addition, and it's just squaring off the northwest as well as the southwest portions of the existing balcony towards the west there. There are some stone veneer accents that are going to be added, but that's just modifications and maintenance of the exterior. It doesn't require a coastal permit, but it is on there, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention. With that, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission adopt the resolution approving the regular coastal permit to allow the 81 square foot addition, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, and I believe that this has been done before, so it's something that we have precedent for.
Mayor Sanchez, that is correct. It is. There's a total of 4 or 5 homes down there. They are all going through the same modifications.
Thank you. Do we have a presentation from the applicants? You do have time to speak if you wish. If not, that's fine. You have up to 20 minutes. Okay. You are Robert Bremer?
The owner of the home.
Okay.
And basically what we're doing is we have a deck that's leaking very badly. And so we were going to have to tear it apart and refix it. And both our neighbors on each side of us, when they had the same problems with it. And so when they decided to fix it, they said, well, let's just square it off and add a little bit more because the design of the deck makes it hard for furniture and stuff like that up on our deck. And so we just, decided, well, if our neighbor on the right and left did it, and we're going to have to do it anyways, it'd be nice to get that extra 81 feet and allow us to, have furniture and stuff on there. We're not coming out any farther towards the ocean. We're going to be exactly on the same line,
right?
As our neighbors and everything else.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If you wish to address the council at this time, you can. Please approach one of the podiums and give your name, and you can speak for up to 3 minutes.
Hello, Joan Bachman, Seaside neighborhood. I have no issue with what they're doing. The requirement is to stay below the Pacific Street, and I believe they've done that. I do want to point out, though, that every time I'm on the Strand, I'm amazed anybody builds there. As a resident, as a taxpayer, I have no intention of paying to save someone's home or to clean it out of the ocean. When I first moved here, I lived at 1705, I think, South Pacific. And no one had built in front of us onto the beach, so we had a gorgeous view. It was great. Rent was cheap. And when it came time to start thinking about buying a home, there was one 2 doors down for $300,000. We instead bought on Horn Street. I've never regretted that decision. I'm thrilled. When we moved in a parallel line to the beach, and I have never had to worry about my home being swept away. Sea level rise is real. It's coming. I, as a taxpayer, have no intention to fight the ocean. So every time one of these is approved or discussed, I think we should reiterate that and what our taxpayers really should be on the hook for. So I know the city has no liability for these people whatsoever, I hope. That's my understanding. And I just want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other requests to speak at this time? I don't see anybody rising, so I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of this public hearing. And did staff want to say anything at all at this point?
Honorable Mayor Sanchez, I have nothing at this time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So this is a motion to adopt the resolution. Councilmember Weiss.
Move approval.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We're now on item number 21. And this is adoption of a resolution approving a development plan, conditional use permit, and request for density bonus to allow the construction of an 8-story mixed-use project, approximately 147,060 square feet in size, and consisting of a total of 115 studio apartments with 103 market rate and 12 low-income affordable units. The overall project would dedicate the top 2 floors as commercial hotel space with 64 rooms and 1,920 square feet of first floor space allocated for hotel lobby and leasing office, all within a freestanding building to be located on a 15,589 square foot parcel located north of Seagaze Drive and west of Nevada Street. This is next to the reptile shop. Is that right? Yes. 712 Seagaze Seagaze. Its applicant is LC Holdings, LLC. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request that disclosures from commissioners regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff, the developer, their representatives, and members of the public.
Staff and the public.
Staff, and I have to say we received several emails and also calls. I received some calls from the public.
Staff, the public, and the developer.
Staff, applicant, public.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and begin. Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
All correspondence has been forwarded to the council prior to the meeting.
Thank you, and I did see that. So now we begin our testimony with, again, Mr. Richard Greenbauer, our principal planner.
Honorable Mayor Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Keim, distinguished council members, Richard Greenbauer again for my second item tonight. As previously stated, this is a request for a development plan, conditional use permit, and a request for density bonus for an 8-story structure off Seagaze at 712. The city staff has compiled their team of professionals for technical questions. They are in attendance this evening, as well as the applicant and the developer. The applicant's representative and the developer, they both have presentations, so I'll go through mine as fast as I can so we can give them time. We've coordinated so I don't create a lot of redundancy in my presentation, and I will brief you on that as we go through the slides. Just a brief overview of the structure. The illustrative shown on the overhead is an illustrative of the structure as it would be, as it would look once constructed. And it is a existing 15,000 square foot lot off Seagaze Drive and Nevada Street, which is currently has been fully developed as a parking lot, but unused for years. The 8-story mixed-use building would total 147,000 square feet in size, would include 115 studio apartments, 1,920 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor, as well as 64 hotel rooms on the top 2 floors of the 8-story structure. The request for a density bonus would allow 12 units for low-income persons to reside in close proximity to the ocean, and that is part of the density bonus law from the state that is being brought forward this evening. Little background, you can see the non-operating surface parking lot and the location, which is in the downtown subdistrict 2 area, which allows for commercial retail and office type uses. As with a few other projects I brought through recently, mixed use in the downtown area is being brought forward and consistent with our removal of the cap in the downtown area, as well as the creation of the transit overlay district. We're starting to see more interest in mixed use projects in the downtown. Adjacent zoning allows for commercial professional with urban high density residential to the south. So we do have a transition as you come out of the downtown area into a commercial professional zone district and then into higher density urban densities as well. The location of the site is approximately a quarter of a mile from the NCT Transit Center, so it allows for another type of conveyance for the residents once they move in. Just a little background on TOD and transit-oriented development. The purpose of TOD is to encourage a mix of commercial, retail, hospitality, and residential uses, which will encourage an efficient pattern of development that supports alternative modes of travel. It's a land use strategy which seeks to strike a balance between resolving today's critical transportation issues and allowing freedom of movement and choice of travel mode. TOD is the current trend in urban redevelopment that ultimately results in the creation of vibrant, livable, sustainable communities and energizes the street scenes and provides a density that will support the commercial and the surrounding area. Maximizing TOD in an urbanized area will continue to create compact, walkable, pedestrian-oriented uses, mixed-use communities, will allow persons residing in these areas to live a lower stress lifestyle without complete dependence on car for mobility and survival. General plan policies, staff analyzed those. The redevelopment plan, which the policies were set to revitalize the downtown area, bringing forth such developments, eliminate blight and deterioration, such as the unused surface parking lot, and then try to achieve a maximum dwelling unit count of 5,500 units within the downtown redevelopment area. Staff also analyzed the housing element, and that is for consistency, and it was determined consistent and will make available housing to current and future residents at all different income levels. And then the final land use policy that we analyzed was the land use element, and it's to minimize conflicts with adjacent uses. As I showed with the commercial professional, we do have a transitional area to the south, so it is suitable for this type of development. Regarding public input, the applicant did conduct their enhanced notification community outreach, was sent to property owners 1,500 feet and 100 feet. They conducted a public meeting at the library community rooms with 7 people in attendance. Their primary concerns were traffic, parking, and height of the building. Subsequent to that, our OCNA group, Oceanside Coastal Neighborhood Association, brought the project to their standing meeting and presented to those in attendance. Subsequently, staff received a total of 12 emails concerned primarily with parking, building height, and the hotel use being brought forward here. As part of the overall project, a request for density bonus was brought forward by the applicant, and by providing 10% low income of the 115 units, 12 of those, this project is entitled to 1 incentive concession, which the applicant is requesting an incentive or a concession to the utility undergrounding requirement in order to achieve the low-income units on the site. The density bonus also allows for waivers of development standards, and the number of waivers is not limited. This project is seeking a total of 8 waivers, including setbacks, open space requirements, landscaping minimums, parking widths next to columns and walls, compact spaces in lieu of standard size spaces, garage drive aisle widths, building height, and then the required facade modulation. The overall design is a form-based type design which pushes the building out to the property lines, similar to Sunsets and a couple other mixed-use projects that I've brought forward to this commission as well. The item was reviewed by our Downtown Advisory Commission on December 1st, and after due consideration and a 5-2 vote, they recommended approval to this body, subject to 4 conditions as follows. Adding lease language restricting apartments from being used as short-term rentals. Staff has included that as a condition of approval in the resolution. limiting hotel guest access to residential floors. Staff has listed a condition in the resolution to require an operation management plan to ensure that we can ensure that the two type uses, single family as well as hotel guest, can live in harmony. And then the third item was to revisit alley ingress egress to the parking structure. I'll get into further detail with some slides in a moment. And then dedicate one parking space per residential unit in the apartment lease with no fee being charged. With that, I provide the site plan just for everyone's understanding of how the 15,000 square foot lot would be laid out. You have the alley to the north. The alley width is a total of 23 feet, not 20 feet. There's a 3-foot ribbon gutter in the center, so there's a 20-foot access coming off of Nevada Street, which would provide for ingress and egress of the structure. The parking structure is 5 stories, 3 levels subterranean and 2 levels above that on podium. You can also see the perimeter landscaping on the parkways and the vertical landscaping that'll be proposed as part of the overall structure. With that, I've got elevation illustrative just for the public in attendance this evening, as well as yourselves, to see the vertical landscaping that they've produced, as well as the finished materials to help out with the overall massing and design in the downtown area. This is a view from Nevada Street, so they carry the commercial, ground floor commercial spaces around to Nevada, and as well as the parking structure on the first 2 levels there. The next elevation is showing the amenities, the open space area, and some of the private patio areas for some of the units. And this will be utilized, the open space area with the swimming pool will be utilized by both hotel and the residential guests. Getting into the parking, I did provide the table as parking summary. You can see there are reductions allowed for TOD. The total spaces required for this site with the hotel and the residential is 139 spaces. The applicant is proposing a total of 153 spaces, 7 of which are new spaces being placed upon sea gaze on angled parking spaces. In addition, they're bringing forward a total of 59 bicycle parking spaces, 46 vertical bicycle racks for indoor spaces for the residents, plus 5 bike lockers, and then 8 racks near the main entry for a total of 59 spaces for the public to use in those commercial spaces. And then the 1 loading space to address loading of the residents or persons coming to the hotel will be located off Nevada Street. With that, I know I alluded to the fact that the Downtown Advisory Committee wanted us to revisit the alley access. We do have our Transportation Engineering Division Director in attendance this evening if we have technical issues. You can see some of the most current mixed-use projects that I brought forward, including 111, which is outside of downtown but close to the transit center, 901 Peerview, as well as the Sunsets mixed use, all of which have alley access at 20 feet. So this is consistent, although the density is increased beyond those 3 mixed-use projects, it is consistent with the type of access for this area. And staff concludes that the alley access is sufficient, and I'll turn that over to traffic should you have any technical questions. Next is the neighborhood contextual study showing the existing residential to the southeast, which is 6, and then the most easterly residential structure, I believe they've been there 45, 50 years, is 7 stories in height. And just 1 block up to the east, we had the Belvedere project, which is now expired, but that is a similar type development of mixed use that had hotel as well as residential combined within a 7-story building. I'm going to forego any further contextual study on the massing because the applicant has another PowerPoint, so I don't want to be redundant in that manner, but they'll bring that forward showing the various heights throughout the downtown area and consistency. With that, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission adopt the resolution approving a development plan, conditional use permit, and density bonus to allow the construction of an 8-story mixed-use project, and I make myself available for any questions as well as the team of professionals with me this evening.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and get into the applicant's presentation. If you could please introduce to the applicant who is going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant. And you get 20 minutes. You can reserve some of that to respond to comments, if you wish, of the 20 minutes. Well, I guess he's going to introduce himself.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Dan Niebaum, the Lightfoot Planning Group offices in Carlsbad. Here representing prime companies and LC Development, and Brian LC is here tonight. We're gonna kind of do a two-pronged presentation, so I'm gonna be going through my slides quickly, and he has another presentation, and we'll keep that fairly short so we can save some of our time. Appreciate Richard's presentation. I think it was very thorough, and him pointing out, I think the key element, we're in the TOD area. This is a project that brings density to the downtown and proximity, close proximity to the transit center. It provides for the redevelopment that's happening in downtown. It's consistent with other projects that have been seen lately and consistent with the pattern that's been looked at in the downtown area. As Richard had gone through several things here, again, we have 115 studio apartments, 103 market rate workforce housing. These are clearly designed, for a different segment of workforce to provide a different level of affordability in these units in the downtown area. And as a mixed-use project, we propose 64 hotel rooms on the top 2 floors of the project. We have street-level commercial and storefront for management offices and accessory uses on the first level of the project. Again, Richard had gone through the parking garage details. We got a parking garage that provides more than the required parking for this project. It's also going to include 25 spaces reserved for EV as required, and 12 of those will be equipped as required. And we're increasing the angled street parking on Seagaze Drive. Again, the project has several amenities for guests, and we're going to make some significant street-level improvements. I think a list of project benefits, beyond all the drawings we've looked at, are important to go through. Again, this project provides needed workforce in the downtown core and provides these units to a wider range of income levels. And again, it adds to the variety of housing types in the area, and it supports the need also for additional visitor accommodations in Oceanside with the hotel use. We're in the downtown transit-oriented district within a half mile again of the transit center, providing access to the Coaster, Sprinter, and Metrolink, and all the bus services that are there. The project provides bicycle storage and other amenities to support alternatives to driving. Again, makes significant improvements to the streetscape with plantings in the parkways. Richard had shown the green walls on the project, on the side of the project elevations, and the planters on the second and third levels, and those are significant elements in the project. And again, this is, development of a long unused vacant parking lot and vacant piece of property. It's we're providing a bright, vibrant project that would be providing an income-producing property in the city versus what's there now. Richard had shown you this contextual view, so I'll go through it quickly. But again, there's the project dropped into the area around it. And again, we're in the downtown, we're in D2. The D2, D3, and D1 areas are, I think, really considered the core of downtown. Richard had shown it on his aerial, but, here's the project site. And I think this area, the commercial professional zone, is a transition from the downtown area. Not the D2 zone where we're at, but this area in the CP. And then the area beyond it is urban high-density residential, which is a mix of multifamily and single-family homes. But again, we are in the D2 core. This is a color up of the site plan. Richard has shown site plan overlay. But again, this shows where we're converting the spaces on Seagaze. We have a loading space on Nevada for move-ins and move-outs or temporary drop-offs and pickups. Again, we have additional parkway landscaping out here beyond what's there now. There's 4 palm trees out here now. We will preserve those, of course. And with the addition of 4 additional 4 trees and planting areas, it's a vast improvement on the streetscape. This also maintains the existing crosswalk and existing bump-out system that's here on Seagaze, so maintains safe pedestrian crossings. And so again, this is the height study and contextual study Richard had mentioned. And I think it's important to note that there's been a lot of comments about the height of this building. It's out of scale, it's out of context. We just simply don't think that's true. Again, the neighboring senior living building over here is 7 stories high at 75 feet. We're just under 90 feet, although we listed it at 90 feet for the proposed project. The other portion of the senior living building is about 58 feet, but these are 6- and 7-story buildings over here, more to the south. The Ocean Lofts project, 1 block north of us, is 87 feet high. It's kind of an architectural trick. It doesn't look like it has that many levels, but these are 1.5 story levels inside that. So 87 feet's almost the same as our building. Again, 301 Mission over here is 72 feet high, and we kind of ghosted in the envelopes of these buildings because they weren't available as elevations in our exhibit. But Pierside South is 7 stories and 82 feet high. Pierside North is a little shorter, but that's a smaller building. The Seabird Hotel is 82 feet high, and the Mission Pacific is 90 feet high. So there's strong precedent, I think, for buildings of this scope and scale in the downtown area. Again, this is the perspective elevations that Richard had shown you, but it's a great view of the project showing the green wall along the streetscape, the activated streetscapes and front facades at the first level of the building, and the greenery on the balconies that is planned in these areas. Again, we have contemporary building materials, but they're refined and coordinated and create this nice contemporary urban look. And again, here's a close-up of that streetscape and the greenery on the second and third levels and the green wall. And this will really activate this street, I think, in this type of a mixed-use project. This is what we worked with staff on how to bring this first level out to the street. And we think it's a very good design solution. With that's a close-up of that area. But I'm going to have Brian come up and give his presentation. We'll get this switched over for him.
You've got 13 more minutes.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you. My name again is Brian Elsey, and Honorable Mayor and Council members. It's great to be here. I'm from Manhattan, Kansas, and it's great to be here. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of why we chose to do this project here, why apartments and why a hotel use. And so first of all, there's just a huge demand for housing here. We've got the study showing that for the next 10 years, I want to see 5,400 units built in this area, particularly in the downtown core. And we want to be a part of that. With the hotel demand, I mean, this is a dynamic area. That's how I first became acquainted with Oceanside, coming from Kansas, coming out here on vacation with my family. We know that the hotel will do great. There's a lot of demand for that. We had originally proposed this project without the hotel use, and then with the success that we're doing with our project in Columbus, Ohio, where we're currently running a hotel use with apartments in it, we thought this would be a great location, and Oceanside's a lot better than Columbus, Ohio, as far as a tourist destination. So a big part of our project is we design our projects for affordability by the design of the projects, so that's by using a smaller footprint. And so when you think of affordable housing, what that means is what somebody makes in 1 year's time, they shouldn't spend more than 30% of their income on their housing. Okay, well, California's got a huge problem with that. Housing's just too expensive. There's not enough supply. There's way too much demand. So over 54% of people here, you'll see on this chart, they're burdened. So they're paying more than 30% of their income for their housing. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. And so we look at the AMI here in San Diego County, it's 95,000. But in Oceanside, it's only 73,000, okay? So we just do the math on that. You take 73,000 times 30%. Somebody should be spending about 22,000 a year on housing. That works out to about $1,828 a month. That's all you should be spending on your housing, okay? So you go into apartments.com, you look at the area that we're in. What's the most affordable housing option you can find? It's $2,300. It's a studio apartment that's 500 square feet at the pier side, okay? You can't live here in Oceanside in this great walkable community if you're an average worker, an essential worker. Okay, so that's what we're planning on doing here. We're going to come build 12 inclusionary housing units. Those are going to be rented at $1,600 a month. That's a covenant that's 55 years, okay? And we're actually building these units. We're not doing the payment and fee of lieu. You can do that in other parts of the country. We chose not to do that here. And then these units, we're building 103 market rate studios. So these aren't rent restricted, but what I think the market will bear is between $1,800 and $2,000 a month, okay? So remember our figure, somebody that's making the average median income here in Oceanside, all they can afford is $1,828. So we're right in that sweet spot where you want to be, okay? But you compare that to what the peer side and our other competitors are, we're $300 to $500 a month cheaper than they are, okay? So who are these people? They're essential workers. They're your registered nurses, a soldier over at Camp Pendleton, Marine. What do they get for their housing allowance? Right here, $2,100. A Marine could come live here. Okay, and so we hear about density and what the state's doing. So we've got SB 9, people are familiar with that. I think density in the right location is a good thing. But I would say putting fourplexes, which is essentially what you can do, they're eliminating single-family housing because we've got such a housing crisis in California. That's not a good solution, okay? That's got a lot of people fired up. It's a terrible solution, I think. But the thing is, hey, we want to put density in the right place. Downtown Oceanside, where we've got transit, that's the right place. And so I think a vote for this project, it's a vote for affordable housing. We're coupling that with a great demand that you have for more tourists, hotels. You see that with all the demand with the Airbnb units, and you guys have problems with that, and so you're creating an ordinance, but there's a huge demand. We need more hotel units as well. So we think this is a great hybrid product that can meet a lot of the needs that are here in Oceanside. So with that, I'm open for questions. We got the rest of our team here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, and you will have 8 minutes and 11 seconds left for potential rebuttal. All right, this is the time for the public hearing. Do we have requests to speak that for people who submitted slips?
Yes, we do. We have 6 requests to speak.
Let's go ahead and begin with that.
Our first speaker is Jane Marshall, to be followed by Lisa Hamilton, to be followed by Adrian Guillot, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name, to be followed by Suzette LaPolice. And we have 2 podiums here, so as I call your name, feel free to come on down and line up at either podium. Jane, you're up.
Hi, good evening, council, staff, neighbors, and Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Jane Marshall, 32-year resident, president of OCNA, the Oceanside Coastal Neighborhood Association, serving more than 1,000 downtown residents. As most of you know, OCNA is not against development. In fact, quite the contrary. We work very well with most developers. Most of the time, we are referred by the planning staff. We have a really good relationship with the planning staff. And they refer developers to us to find out what are the issues in the neighborhood? What can they do proactively to understand what the community needs and what they can do to help make that happen? Our board of directors, all of them longtime residents, been involved in all the downtown planning charrettes and the general plan update. We worked really hard on making sure that ADUs were not used as short-term rentals so that the effect of that housing rule actually came to fruition with housing and not short-term rentals. So when we looked at this project, we saw, okay, it has affordable housing. That's good. It does do something with a lot. Now, keep in mind, the former project developer came and talked to us, and they did create a really, really cool project. Unfortunately, that didn't go through. But this does offer housing. It has mixed use, which we understand is just supposed to be the leasing office on the bottom floor, so not necessarily coffee shop and stuff like that. But it would, in that way, 6 stories with the affordable housing element of 10%, all of that is good, good, good. We support that. What we don't support is the change of use for a hotel and the addition of 2 stories. The pictures that you saw look great, but when you're actually in the community, it's monstrosity. So what we're asking is that you allow this project to proceed as original with the 6 stories, with the housing, with affordability, with the leasing office down below. The parking issue, it's beyond our control with TOD, but at least if we're able to mitigate the hotel use, which is a lot more traffic and a lot more parking, and if we can hopefully deed restrict the units, the studio units, which, by the way, $1,800 for 300 square foot a month is quite a lot for Oceansiders. But if we can deed restrict them from being short-term rentals, then that would solve all the problems that the neighborhood has. So we ask you, please do not approve the CUPs for the hotel use or the additional 2 stories so that we can actually get the housing for all these variances that they have put forth, that they're allowed with the state. That's what we ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Lisa Hamilton. I live at 323 South Ditmar in Oceanside, and I am going to read a statement that was given to me by the Oceanside Coastal Neighborhood Association Board. The board strongly opposes the developers' request of the developers of 712 Seagaze for 2 CUPs, one to add 2 more stories, and the second to use those stories as a hotel. Our reasons are as follows. The D2 downtown development area is here for financial and office use. It was not intended for hotel use and the traffic and parking issues that hotel use would generate. With just a minor amount of affordable housing, 10%, they can forego appropriate housing for 115 studio and apartments and hotel units. These 2 issues create unnecessary congestion, which will overflow into the already impacted neighborhoods and will require traffic calming measures. Even the Coastal Commission is concerned about this project, that it may restrict coastal access to and from our main beaches. Allowing 8 stories instead of the planned 6 stories sets a precedent that grossly distorts the downtown skyline. We therefore ask you to consider deed restrict, sorry, my mistake, I turned the wrong page, just downtown skyline, and we ask that this project stay with the 6 stories and affordable retail space. This is acceptable to our neighborhood residents and members. At least we ask that you consider deed restrictions on these studio apartments, or they will likely become Airbnbs or other short-term rentals. We need housing. We don't need hotel rooms. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Adrien Guillot. I am a resident of Oceanside. Over the past 6 months, we have collected about 50 signatures from residents in opposition to this plan and are fearful of negative impact of this plan on the community. On the local level, parking overflow, traffic safety, and home privacy are all immediate concerns of the community. More specifically, the location of this development next to residential zoning would create high level of overflow parking and exacerbate existing traffic issues at intersections for residents and low-income renters on Ditmar and Nevada. Overall, an additional 2 stories for hotel space on top of 6 stories of studio rooms is beyond proper planning. We therefore ask you to deny the CUP for hotel component of this project and evaluate short-term rental restrictions to balance real safety concerns from residents in the area. At a larger scale, we are concerned that approval of high-density tower will set an unfortunate precedent for future development downtown. Marketing images from the developer show other similar buildings, but the reality is even taller than the retirement building on South Nevada and this building will tower over our home and bedroom windows. The city should also ensure, we believe, there are clear infrastructure plan and budget allocation before approving this development. Plans such as permit parking should be put in place now, not hindsight, after the existing community is already negatively impacted. LC's marketing teams and consultants have discussed low-income housing and affordable units in their pitch to win favor. I urge you to remember the following fact. Approximately 10 units will be low-income housing to qualify for high-density bonus. Please remember their intent is not to help the community with low-income housing, but rather to qualify for bonus and maximize their profit. Additionally, market research shows these 300 square foot rooms will rent at $1,600, looking at their presentation, plus a month. I ask how an hourly worker in the area will consider that affordable housing. The development would create the perfect storm for short-term rentals to further increase the investor population and transient summer rental community. To summarize, the community of Oceanside asks that you deny the CUP for the hotel and enforce short-term rental restriction. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you.
Our next speakers are Suzette La Police. I apologize if I mispronounce your
La
last name.
Police. Just like LA Police. I'm here because I really don't like this project. And now that they've decided to increase the height of it and make a hotel over there, I just think it's not a good idea, period. My main concern is I live on Mar Vista, so I live on the corner of Nevada and Seagaze. So I see everything that goes on there. And the traffic patterns are horrible. I'm surprised that we haven't had people killed on that corner, especially Nevada going on to Seagaze. The way those little outcroppings, I wish you had your things up there, are set around where they have them coming out into the street. People drive over those all the time. People come up to the intersection. They look toward the ocean or look west to try to get onto Seagaze. They cannot, and I've tried this myself, they can't see well, so they have to drive beyond the stop sign and able to actually see if there's anything coming, because you have people coming into parking spaces there, and so you don't know if that person's going in a parking space or if he's going straight ahead, which you can't. You'll have to go over to the other lot because suddenly then it turns into a two-way street again. So this, like I say, I see that intersection on a daily basis. I also see Mission. And I picture this traffic, more traffic coming onto those two streets, and I think it's gonna be a mess. And not only that, but I live in a senior community. We have like 200 people that live there, right across the street. And these people are all different physical levels. So people are going across the streets all the time, and it's a hassle. Even though you've got those lights set up there and everything, I never, ever trust anyone because people don't stop. And not only that, we have no muffler ordinances or anything, so we've got people coming up and up that street at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning in these cars that remind me of the old glass packs when I was a kid. So I always laugh. I bought a new car in March, and I told my brother, I better get glass packs put on this, otherwise I'm not gonna fit into my community. Now, like I say, I'm kind of going on here, but I don't like the idea of the building because it's too high anyway, and they take up the entire block. So it's like, okay, boom, we just put this big building here. And we're meeting all the criteria to get all of our special things, 10% low income and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think the building fits there well. If you were even a couple blocks up by the high school where they were gonna have that project and somehow it didn't go, it would be much better. But there, with all the congestion of the kids coming out of the school, it's the parking and the roads and the traffic, the walking traffic and the driving traffic that concern me. And the hotel is gonna add to that.
Thank you.
Of course. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wanda Montgomery, to be followed by Joan Bachman.
Thank you, Council Member. My name is Wanda Montgomery, and I'm representing the 2 senior high-rises over there right at a corner from the new project. And I represent 157 seniors. And we're a dense population on a small corner already. And the parking is what I'm concerned about, and the traffic. Again, for the seniors that do live in this area, that go walking, they're on canes, they're on motorized scooters and things like that. So I know that this is going to increase traffic on Seagaze, and as Suzette also said, the speed of the traffic coming up there. She talked about Nevada Street, but even if you go up one more street to Clementine, there's an island up there. I can't tell you how many cars go plowing into that. You probably know by the amount of signs you have to replace. But anyway, people don't see it because it changes from 2 lanes down off of Coast Highway, down to 1 lane, back to 2 lanes up on Clementine. So it's very confusing. There's people going the wrong way all the time. Even police officers have taken it the wrong way till they got it. So I'm just concerned about squeezing so much. I mean, I know they're talking about how good it is to be dense and offer all this, but I just think it's squeezing too much into too small of a project, or too small of an area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Bachman?
Joan Bachman, Seaside Neighborhood. I'm a past president of OCNA, but I'm not on the board presently. First off, you must limit the short-term rentals. These are killing us. We have no neighbors. All we have are extra cars, and we're the hotel staff. So please limit those. That's absolutely important. The neighbors are correct. This is a lot in one place, and the architecture is not great. It's not green. We should have 4 canopy trees on Nevada and Seagate. They can't even take the cobbles out and put in green. The city's cobbles are a horrible landscaping solution, and they can't even do that. This is nickel and dimed. But I do want to talk about downtown starts at Seagaze and goes north. I want to be very clear about that. Downtown does not go south. We have El Dorado Mar Vista, and we have the transit center. They're on the wrong side of the line, okay? And so the height and density needs to be north. And on that scale, okay. However, you're also requiring retail. And there shouldn't be any retail in this. There really shouldn't be any retail past the corner of Ditmar and Mission to the corner of Horn and Mission. Those could be retail, but in between should be all housing. This is how we get strip malls if you continue with that pattern. So please stop requiring the mixed use. I know it's in our codes and they have to do it, but please stop doing that. Now, the future density is going to be on Coast Highway, not in the neighborhoods. It's going to be the replacement of the NCTD building. It's going to be those things. We're all for that, but not into the neighborhoods. The issue in the neighborhood is traffic calming, not necessarily the amount, it's the speed. And so traffic calming needs to be done in a comprehensive way for the entire Seaside neighborhood. We have over 17 entrances and exits. I counted them recently. And we need traffic calming on all of our streets. This will also solve our parking. If you drove through the neighborhood, as those of us who live here do, down the 300 blocks, it is solid park on every single block. Okay, we need a radical solution there. So we need traffic calming as a comprehensive solution for the Seaside neighborhood, and that means every single block. All the entrances, every single block, and not 3 blocks away because they'll just speed in between. So traffic calming is one of our most important things. I think this is too dense. I think the landscaping hanging on the walls. We just lost 2 trees on Vine Street. Who's going to fix that? Is the developer volunteering to see that and fix it? Probably not. When those walls die, we'll be the ones arguing away with code enforcement, trying to get them to put some water on them. So let's get some real landscaping. Let's get it out in the bulb out. We need canopy trees on both sides of Seagaze. We need all those bulb outs taken out. We need traffic calming. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, this is a public hearing, and we just heard from those who had previously submitted a slip. You do not actually have to do that in a public hearing. You can approach the podium, give us your name, and then speak up to 3 minutes.
Mayor, council members, and builder and proposed builder and everything of this project. Being a past Senior Citizen of the Year, I cannot let this slip by. The minimum amount for an apartment that's going to be given here is $1,828. I sat there and looked up on my little tablet what the minimum benefit for Social Security is. And I know there are a few people in our city that are receiving this. $898. Now, if you receive $898, you would never be able to afford to live in this. Never. You would be on the streets. You would be homeless. What is going to happen to our seniors that live in such a situation? Is there going to be any help for them? That's going to be it. A majority of our seniors make from our Social Security slightly bit higher than that, probably about $1,500 per month. Again, a lot less than this $1,828. We're going to have a partnership between the private sector and public sector that's involved. If we're going to take and value our seniors, if you don't want to see the homeless out there to be a majority of our seniors, something is going to have to take place. Instead of putting a monetary value of $1,828, why can't there be a partnership of accommodation for our seniors? This is something that needs to be looked into by both the private sector and public sector, where we see to the needs of both. Can this be done instead of putting artificial values on some? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please approach the podium.
Boulder's too big. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. My name is Eric Joyce. I'm a District 1 resident. Thank you, first of all, for considering housing. We are in an urgent housing crisis. There are details in this project which could probably be improved, but I'm just going to focus on the housing piece. And the one piece especially is the lack of real teeth of a short-term vacation rental restriction. The modern world where short-term vacation rentals have replaced hotels in a lot of spaces, we're living in that world, and our city is lacking a cohesive policy to address it. So I would ask that you take that up separately from this, but it is related. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Got Thank you, sir. If you'd like to give your name, and then you can speak for up to 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm Bruce Elsie. I'm actually Brian Elsie's dad, and we have a home in South Oceanside. And I just, my overall feeling is that there is a huge housing problem, which is not news to anybody in this room. And there's a lot of economic issues, and it's a very complicated problem. Homelessness is a huge problem everywhere. And because of that, I think that communities historically, they need to step up. Somebody has to do it. Nobody wants housing density to increase in their neighborhood. Nobody wants change. And I'm no different than anybody else. At 70 years old, I'm particularly sensitive to change. But I see the people that are homeless. I see the people that are workers that can't walk to work or ride a bike to work. And, I think that the community as a whole has to look at that and say, hey, it may be something that we have to not just talk about it, we have to do something about it. We have to provide more housing that is accessible, that people can walk to, that people can bike to. And I think we have to get away from a situation where the governor of the state pretty much has to say, you have to do this because there's no communities out there that are going to provide low-income housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thanks for all your service. I'm getting up there in age too, and
Your name, sir?
I'm sorry?
If you could give your name.
Oh, I'm Steve
record.
Berchanti. I'm on Ditmar. I've been here for a couple years. Love the old houses in the neighborhood, but I'm not opposed to change. I kind of like it. The new hotels actually took part of my sunset view away, but I get it. We have to have these things. It's just when, in looking at the numbers that these folks put up here, I see the number of hotel rooms, the number of apartments, and then the parking spaces don't add up. It looks like you're about 50 spots short. And then when you take into consideration there's going to be retail, where do those folks park? We need something there. I agree. I don't know. Do you lop a floor or two off? Do you dig the hole deeper and put another couple floors down below? I know it's ruined the cost structure of the project. I get it. But to cram this many spots and then retail and hotel on top of it, it's going to dig too much into it's going to web out into the neighborhood. And now you're going to have people parking on top of people and in addition to the traffic. So those things kind of are a big concern for me. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Honorable Mayor. I did have the actual Oceanside average income.
Hold on, Arlene. Arlene hasn't spoken on this, right?
I have not commented on this.
Right. That's what I have. I've written everybody's name and I haven't written her name yet.
Right.
Okay, just, I hope we waited for her. Okay. Some of us thought maybe you had spoken before.
Starting over, Arlene Hammersmith, Ruralish Fire Mountain. I had looked up the actual average medium income of Oceanside, and it's $31,000 a year. Point of interest.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't see anybody else rising to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing and ask the applicant if he wishes to speak at this time and rebuttal or to respond. I believe you had how many?
8 minutes, 11 seconds.
8 minutes, 11 seconds left. No, just closed it, sorry.
Okay, yeah, so a couple of things. I want to clarify, the building's always been proposed at 8 stories. It was all going to be residential, and then we studied the market some more, and we just changed the use from apartments to a hotel use. So the structure's always been proposed at 8 stories. And so I want to make sure that's clear. That was one of the things I heard. There's some sort of thought that, well, if the hotel goes away, the building's not going to be as tall, or that's false. The building will remain at 8 stories if for some reason the hotel use gets denied. I think with the parking's always an issue in every community we work in. We're building a 3-story underground parking garage. Those stalls cost about $65,000 a stall, so we're 14 stalls. So it's like $850,000 extra to try to get as much. We've got 3 stories of underground parking plus 2 stories of kind of half above ground parking. So we are trying to get as much parking as we can on that site. I understand that concern. I hear the comments on the short-term rentals. That's a great comment. I mean, that points to the market demand. That points to the need for more short-term or stays less than 30 days. We don't have problems in Manhattan, Kansas of people turning apartments into short-term rentals because there's not the demand, okay? Oceanside, there is a demand. So people that say we don't need a hotel, that's just not true. People want to stay here. This is a great place you guys live in. It's fantastic. So the hotel use is 100% appropriate. And I get I think the short-term rental, I would like to see that, throughout the entire community, not just, I think there's 2 other projects that we're putting that condition on. I don't think other that's a competitive advantage that they have. If I can't do it on my property, I just think, to be fair, it should be community-wide. I don't have any other big comments. I mean, the retail space, that's going to be kind of we're viewing that as it's a hybrid check-in type place where you come to like a coffee shop, bar, countertop place. That's where you check into the hotel. It's got the retail, so it's going to really kind of a really cool vibe there. I think those are the main issues that I heard. And we'll work with the landscaping. We can try to accommodate better landscaping. I'm a landscape architect, but it sounds like there's other people who have better opinions on that. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Greenbauer, did you have any other comments?
Honorable Mayor Sanchez, yes, just for clarification on the binding resolution, I know we had a lot of comments regarding deed restrictions on STRs. And I'll just, for the record, note that there is a condition 103, which requires a covenant be recorded for the binding resolution, as well as condition number 120, which does restrict the 115 units from stays less than 30 days. So it is deed restricted through the resolution on any action that occurs this evening.
All right, thank you very much. All right, back to council. Councilmember Jensen.
I just want to ask if there is any traffic study done or...
Councilmember Jensen, yes, a traffic study was prepared. We do have our transportation engineer here in attendance if you have a technical specific question for them. But yes, everything has been vetted: fire, safety, traffic, water, utility, sewer. Everything's been vetted out and is suitable for this type of development.
Okay, because I don't think I heard mentioned tonight that the post office is right there. And the post office is right on Seagaze. And coming off of Ditmar where people park, you can't see. And you have to turn left and you have to see the 2 lanes of traffic that are coming at you. And you can't see who's coming when you have to turn. So I can see where there's a traffic hazard in that area, and adding 150 more cars is going to, it's going to be a problem. The community has stated it. Everybody has seen it that lives there and goes to the post office every day like I do. And, it's a serious concern. So I don't know, maybe we need to look at the study and see what it shows about the traffic in that area and parking.
I will defer to Hamid, our traffic engineer. He can speak to that. I know there was an extensive study analysis conducted, okay. And I believe they might have future coming forward. I'll let him speak to that, though.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sanchez, members of City Council, Hamid Bahadori, Public Works Director, City Traffic Engineer. A traffic study was prepared for this project. The traffic study shows that the project will generate 1,330 trips. In the morning, it will generate about 79, 80 trips, about 60% outbound, 40% inbound. In the evening, it generates about 114, 115 trips. The system in the street system in that part of the city is all level of service A and B, the intersections and the road segments. The only intersection that's even level of service D is Mission and Horn. The rest of the intersections and the street segments are well below the city's established level of service requirements. The system can accommodate the project traffic sufficiently with no problem. The traffic will not cause any congestion. The access off alley can be accommodated. All alleys are restricted for parking. We will look at this alley. If there is a need, we will even make a no parking to a no stopping to make sure there is ample, adequate access for the project. The intersections in that area, the accident records, as we have in our inventory in the police department for the last 5 years, from January 2017 to January of this year, we show only one accident, broadside, at the intersection of Nevada and Seagate. The location that you are mentioning, I'm familiar with that. We will look at that location independent of this project, and I will be happy to discuss that with you all after the meeting also to see if you have any ideas for us.
I mean, since you're there, there's a high school there which has huge parking issues because of, a lot has been built on campus, so that it has eliminated a lot of those parking spaces. This is really truly, for me, it's a cumulative issue with all those students and teachers and all driving around and around trying to find parking. And of course, you have several churches right there. So cumulatively, you looked at the parking issues as well?
Well, the adequacy of parking is a separate issue, and our planning people have looked at it, and it meets our code requirements. I go there almost every other day around the school closing time to look at the traffic in that area as much time as I have. And it is pretty challenging. The good news is that the school closing time, the high school closing time, does not coincide with the peak hour for the project, which is residential hotel. But the parking, the adequacy of parking in that area, one of the reasons that the access was given on alley rather than on either Seagate or Nevada is to minimize the parking loss. Because if we put a driveway on one of those streets, it would have taken, with the restriction that we need adjacent to the driveway, we would have lost maybe another 4 parking spaces on the street. It is challenging, especially during the school events. I agree with you. But
football.
Yes. No, but that's another issue, and we take it very seriously. And I look at that area very closely myself on a regular basis. And we'll do our best to see what we can do to maximize the parking in a safe way.
Thank you. My apologies, Councilmember Jensen, for taking over that. I was done. You were done? Okay. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you very much for the presentation and all the public that came out to speak on this project. I read through a lot of the emails and I noticed a consistency of concerns with height, parking, traffic impacts, privacy. And through my due diligence with staff and their staff report, we have an amazing staff here in the city of Oceanside. Literally like the best in the industry, and they have to make decisions based on empirical data, not speculation. So a lot of these decisions are made after reports are done, paid for by the developer as a contingency of approving or at least getting a recommendation from staff. And all of this is bounced up against state policy, which is, as Ms. Bachman pointed out a couple times, due to climate change, they want everybody to live where they get out of their vehicles, and therefore disincentivizes owning a vehicle. So we're looking at this, and a lot of the comments are looking at this from the assumption that everybody's going to have a vehicle. Well, because they probably are, but the state wants them to get out of their vehicles, so they want to make it more difficult to have a vehicle through their policies on a state level. And it's unfortunate, but that's the fact, and that's the reality we're dealing with in high-density downtown development in the city of Oceanside, and policies that are trying to cater to climate change by making it more difficult to own a vehicle. Mr. Mullen, based on state law, local law, what is the risk of litigation if we were not to approve this project tonight?
Councilmember Rodriguez, it's hard to predict, but I think I could give you the same answer that I gave you with respect, or I gave Deputy Mayor Keim with respect to the Hallmark project, that there could be a substantial risk. The issue you're dealing with is kind of the interplay between state density bonus law and the Housing Accountability Act. So that was SB 330. This project, even though it's mixed use, appears to meet the definition of a housing development under the Housing Accountability Act because of the amount of residential versus commercial. So there has to be 2/3 residential to 1/3 commercial to constitute a housing development within that meaning of that statute. So if you're proposing to deny or reduce density with respect to a housing development under the Housing Accountability Act, then you have to make very specific findings. We talked about those in the context of the Hallmark project, but effectively, if a project is consistent with objective general plan zoning and subdivision standards, then to deny or reduce density, you have to find that there's a specific adverse impact, which means a significant, quantifiable, direct, and unavoidable impact based upon objective, identified, written public health or safety standards, policies, or conditions as they existed on the date the application was deemed complete, and further, that there's no feasible way to mitigate for those impacts. So those are essentially the findings that you're up against on the Housing Accountability Act. And then the waivers or the incentives or concessions that are granted for purposes of state density bonus law really don't come into play in deciding if it's objectively, consistent with those standards. So, the state has made it raise the bar essentially for purposes of crafting findings. So there could be a substantial risk.
Very good. Thank you for that. Hypothetically, if we were to deny a project, a future project, and it is ruled that we were not able to prove that specific impact as stipulated, what are the fines to a city, to taxpayers?
Well, I think you first asked, but what's the likelihood of litigation? And though I can't speak for the developer,
Correct.
But an applicant or an interested party could seek a writ of mandate in the Superior Court, and if they were successful, then attorney's fees could be awarded and costs of suit. And then should someone be successful, a court could order you to reconsider it. And if you don't approve or implement the court's decision within, I think it's 60 days, then there is a prospect of a fine of $10,000 a unit.
Okay.
That's built into the Housing Accountability Act. I'm not saying that would happen in this case.
No, I'm just
saying
trying to understand the liabilities just in general.
that is in general if a court were to find a violation of the Housing Accountability Act.
Very good. Thank you. I would like to agree. I'm a free market capitalist mindset. I think in competition there's healthiness. We live in the best weather, is some of the best weather in the world. Oceanside is amazing. It's a huge asset, but cost of living is up because we have a supply and demand issue. We have housing laws and regulations that make it so difficult to build, expensive to build. These are private enterprises that are looking to make a profit. They're a business. And cost of construction goes up. When you go above a certain stories, you got to switch from wood frame to increased cost framing. And then the costs just don't make sense. And so I think these units will rent. I think the hotel will stay booked. But my concern about units being turned into short-term vacation rentals, usually I'm for private property rights with that respect. But with this situation, we're granting so many incentives because the laws force us to. And we're given a density bonus. You can't bake the cake and eat it too. So I fully support some restrictions with respect to not turning the apartments into vacation rentals. I really see value in that. But I'm interested to see what other thoughts my colleagues have, and I'll reserve my time.
You have 3:45, something like that.
350.
3:50, okay. Yeah, you took it away so fast, I was like, what was that? Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for participating in some of the comments that we had gotten by emails. And I'd like to start by saying that I do have issues with this project. I understand the state-imposed density bonus regulations significantly tie our hands for these types of projects, but I tend to agree with Jane Marshall. I would rather have seen a 6-story project, period. However, after conferring with the attorneys, the density bonus is a state mandate. A developer who meets the requirements of the state law is entitled to receive the density bonus and other benefits as a matter of right, and the council has no real discretion to deny a density bonus project, and the project at 8 stories includes the hotel. So as just was commented by our city attorney, absent written findings that the project would have a specific adverse impact on public health or safety, which in this case, staff has indicated those findings cannot be made. In this case, we really have not a lot of discretion. However, because the developer is putting a hotel in here, I think the hotel and the TOT generated by the hotel are going to be the only real benefit to the city. And as such, I want to make sure the hotel rooms stay as hotel rooms in perpetuity. I understand the hotel rooms, they're going to be lower cost rooms, so that should be able to hopefully provide the city additional benefits in regards to the number of lower cost visitor serving rooms related to our coastal requirements. However, I have just a couple concerns associated with some of the project conditions. So currently, condition 122 reads, the residential and commercial aspects of this project shall be developed and opened simultaneously as a single mixed-use project. No deferral of the commercial use shall be permitted as the project approval was for mixed-use project. I want to change that condition to read, the residential and commercial aspects of this project, including the hotel, shall be developed and opened simultaneously as a single mixed-use project. No deferral of the commercial use shall be permitted as the project approval was for a mixed-use project. The 64 hotel units approved on floors 7 and 8 shall be used solely and exclusively as hotel units and shall not be leased for stays longer than 30 days. Additionally, condition 121 indicates that prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the residential and commercial components of the mixed-use project, an operations and management plan for the hotel operations shall be submitted to the city for review and approval. I would like to change the certificate of occupancy criteria to prior to the issuance of building permits, that operation and maintenance plan for the hotel be submitted to the city for approval. And a number of people commented about the short-term rental prohibition. That condition is already in here as condition 120, and it prohibits any of the 115 apartment units from being operated as short-term rentals. As was mentioned by, it may have been the developer, the council recently gave similar direction on the Hallmark project. Given that we have applications on file and are likely going to see many more density bonus projects, I think it's time for the city council to restrict short-term rentals on all future density bonus projects, both for market rate and affordable units. And I'd like to give direction to staff to return with the appropriate amendments to the city code and any other documents so that all developers of density bonus projects are treated equally and we don't have to add this condition on a project-by-project basis. So they know in advance that they cannot have them as short-term rentals, and they know coming in what the expectations are. And with those additions, I would move approval of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I don't have any other lights this time. So the discretionary, Deputy Mayor Keim. Okay. The discretionary, of course, issue within this, on this project is the conditional use permit, which actually allows for the hotel space, which I understand Councilmember Weiss's comments about getting something out of this in terms of some kind of revenue based on hotel use, but I just don't see that here. Frankly, I would rather have the housing units versus hotel space, to tell you the truth. So I would deny that. In addition, I do have concerns about some of these waivers. I mean, I don't know how many of you have been to visit someone at a hotel or a timeshare, and the parking spots, especially next to the columns, are like yay size. And so how many, and I've, ruined my car at least 3 times in my life doing that. So after that, 3 times, I guess, finally learned, I just drive around and around and around looking for parking. So I have concerns about the waivers for that, because I do feel that it is a public safety issue. Parking width next to columns is it's a waiver. We should actually make sure that these parking spots are usable and not, things that are just, it's just an excuse to say, okay, I covered the parking spot. So I don't know. The waivers, they don't have to be granted, right? I mean, not all of them. Having smaller parking spots that could be unusable. Mr. Mullen? Compact versus standard size?
The state statute reads, and bear with me, in no case may a city or county apply a development standard that would have the effect of physically precluding the construction of the development meeting the criteria of the density bonus statute at the densities or with the concessions or incentives permitted by this section. So it goes on to read that nothing in the subdivision shall be interpreted to require local government to waive or reduce development standards if the waiver or reduction would have a specific adverse impact. That's the term
Adverse
I read earlier. So
impact.
you'd have to make a finding of a specific adverse impact based upon an identifiable written public health or safety standard.
Well, I mean, I would want these parking spaces to be actually usable,
I
and I think
understand,
that would
and
be
I have to defer to staff to see. I don't know to what extent these spaces.
well, I can tell you from experience.
Yeah.
How usable some of these can be. I'm not, this is staff,
You want to
sir.
address that?
Unless you
Honorable
just got
Mayor
a job
Sanchez,
with
I'm
the
sorry,
city.
what was the question? I couldn't understand you.
Yeah, with respect to the waivers being requested and granted or proposed to be granted, in terms of parking, I'm assuming that that the request is to reduce the size of the parking, especially with next to columns, which I can never park when it's really, really small without damaging my car, basically.
Honorable Mayor Sanchez, that's correct. It is for columns and walls. They're asking for a reduction in that additional foot that's required. It was similar to the Alta Oceanside project that came through. They had the same waiver for columns and walls in order to allow for the parking spaces to be implemented as part of their project. And I concur with you on some of these parking spaces, especially in La Jolla. Getting in and out with a large vehicle is very difficult, and you have to find the right space. But as far as the waiver and concession, it allows for it. They're meeting our compact space dimensions, and that's why we've moved this project forward in the manner we have.
Right. Well, I do feel that this actually makes it almost impossible to be able to use the parking, if not impossible. So I would also work on these to ensure that they would be usable parking spaces. Bottom line is this. We want to build, we're building for the future. We're trying to do walkable communities. We've gone through and talked about the kind of standards we'd like to set for the city, but we're not there yet. We don't have public transportation. We don't have shuttles. We don't even have a grocery store downtown, so you can't even walk, to a grocery store. You have to get in your car and to drive to the next to a grocery store. Who knows? Maybe in the next few years we'll finally be able to do that. Actually, it's been the opposite. We've actually seen grocery stores leave the area. What was it, 3 or 4 grocery stores? So I feel that it is too high of a concentration of use with the hotel space. I think that's too much traffic. When you did the traffic study, Hamid, I don't know if you took that into consideration. You said, oh well, it's good that Oceanside High School, cuts off at a certain time. There is no certain time in the downtown. There's different people coming in. So I believe that we could actually deny the conditional use permit. It is a discretionary thing for the city council. I understand that would probably mean that it would be housing, but I'd rather have the housing because we have a really nice hotel space downtown. Those would be my comments. Deputy Mayor Keim.
What you're hearing tonight is a political vote. We have spent hours working with staff and the city attorney to see what discretion we have in this. And I would like to go to court and tell the judge that we're going to deny the project because the mayor bangs her doors on tight spaces. I'm
talking about the denial of the conditional use permit, which we can deny.
For an identifiable cause. And so that's what I hear. When we have these projects come forward, we have very little discretion on council. And this is one of the most frustrating parts of my job is because, we have design and development standards for a reason. I don't want to grant these 8 waivers. And this is one of the frustrations from the state. If we have, let's just say half of the units have 2 cars per unit, which even if you walk to work, you drive to the doctor's, to the grocery store. So now we have more than 60 cars circling the neighborhood and looking for parking spots. I don't like what we have to give up on these density bonuses. However, I also have to listen to professional staff and our attorney who says you will most likely not only lose, but have to pay fees per unit, $10,000 per unit. So up here, I have to be a good steward of taxpayer money. And I think it's easy when you understand, when you're a member of this body and you know that there's a majority of the council that's probably going to make the correct financial decision, this decision that's best for the city. That way you can sit forward and say, look, I said no and I stuck up for it, even though you don't have a legal reason to do that. So this is very frustrating. If I had the opportunity today to challenge those 8 waivers, I would do so. If I could make you have more parking, I would do so. If I could take the top 2 floors off, I would do so. I've asked all of those questions with staff in the attorney's office. I don't have that discretion, neither does the mayor. She has not identified any specific fact that we can take. And so that's challenging. So again, I have serious concerns with the project, like Councilmember Weiss identified. I also appreciate his forethought and making sure that all density bonus projects have the STR ban. I think the state legislature using housing crisis did the density bonus legislation, did not intend those to be for short-term rentals. So if we can address that today, I think that's important. But again, our hands, and we're gonna have much more of these coming up, our hands are tied many ways because of state legislation. So it doesn't mean we don't have concerns or we wouldn't like to see changes. We are just very limited in what we can do when it comes to us. So, thank you. I think there's a motion and a second.
Right. Mr. Mullen, do we have discretion to deny the conditional use permit?
This is a complicated issue because the CUP, there is a CUP for a hotel use, and I understand what you're saying, Mayor, but you also have the Housing Accountability Act that defines what a housing development is. In a mixed-use project, which is 2/3 residential, 1/3 commercial, the hotel is the commercial here, constitutes a housing development. So the denial of a housing development requires you to make those specific adverse impact findings. So yes, there is discretion, but you would need to give us direction with respect to those specific adverse impact findings. That's how I view this.
So if we were to say increase the retail versus do hotel and send this back for that versus having a hotel?
Increase the retail or the residential?
Yeah. Retail. You're saying, the developer said, the applicant said, oh, well, it's 8 stories, because you have to agree to 8 stories, we don't have to agree to the hotel portion of it, do we?
If you make findings of a specific adverse impact, because the hotel development coupled with the residential is a housing development within the meaning of the Accountability Act. So it does limit your discretion. You'd have to give us direction on specific adverse impact findings.
All right, so we could send this back and ask staff to make those findings and bring that back to us. Is that correct?
We would need direction about which findings to make,
Okay.
because staff hasn't been able to identify those.
All right. Well, I do feel that there are impacts, especially with respect to the parking, especially with respect to, the added use there. We have a lot of homeless down there. We have a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. With respect to, the parking and the high school and the churches, the number of churches. And I just think that it's time for us to say no to this. So, Deputy Mayor Keim.
I think if there is a genuine effort on your part to deny this project, you would have worked with staff weeks ahead of time to try to find those, instead of now just at the council meeting making ambiguous statements about we can't do this, the hotel's not good, the parking's bad. This is why I've had these concerns for weeks. I've worked with staff. I can't identify that. You haven't identified it here tonight. And so I think it's disingenuous to say that. I think it's easy to say that you voted no, and it's cloudy and we don't know why. So that's it. I think we've beleaguered or belabored the point, and I'm ready to vote.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
I just want to echo that. I know I've been working with staff in the city attorney's office. I don't like all the same things that the other members on this dais do not like, but we have not been able to, and our staff have not been able to find that item that we need to say, aha, see, you did not mitigate this. This is violating a health or safety or an impact, and neither has the mayor. And I agree. I think that it's very disheartening to hear her say all these items that are echoing your concerns, which we all are, and then just to vote no for the politics of it. And I really want to point that out. Thank you.
All right. I just want to make a final comment here before we vote, and that is, this is all brouhaha. I mean, if we didn't have 4 council members who are supporting staff to approve every single development that comes before us, and there has never been a development that this council has not liked, period. So yes, we would have help from staff if we were actually on board with doing a much better job for our community. We don't have that. We absolutely do not have that. So let's go ahead and vote.
Motion approved 3-2. Sanchez, Jensen, no.
Thank you. Do we have any council comments again? All right. All right. Well, I want to say that I did want to report that I did speak at the City of Carlsbad meeting where the City of Carlsbad had agendized an item of the City of Oceanside having to do with hard structures and groins. The City of Carlsbad, as had been reported by me and others, had indicated huge concerns about groins being built that would basically take sand away from Carlsbad. So my comments to the City of Carlsbad was basically, listen, however you vote, the City of Oceanside wants to work with you in ensuring that this is a regional project, sand, and we desperately need sand in Oceanside. We desperately need sand in Oceanside. I have been working with the City of Carlsbad, with the mayor and council members, and also with the other North Coastal cities, which are also on record as saying that they have extreme concerns and are actually on record as saying we want to ensure that this goes forward as a regional project and that we all work together. The cities of Encinitas and Solana Beach have received significant funding to address their sand issues. and worked with the Army Corps of Engineers. I also want to report that after meeting with the Army Corps at the different levels this past year and working with Congressman Levin, we actually finally have $1.8 million that has been approved to finally complete the sand study. Now, the Army Corps does work with every single city. This is something I didn't know for sand replenishment projects. Most of the cities to the south of us actually have the cities getting sand replenishment from lagoons because they are so rich in, very good grain sand. So I'm really, really happy that working with staff that we finally got $1.8 million to finally complete the sand study. And hopefully we will be able to look at things such as the living shoreline projects that have been starting to happen even in San Diego County. For example, in Encinitas, the Living Dunes project has actually been very successful expanding the sandy beach in Encinitas. So this is really, really exciting what other cities are doing, not just in San Diego County, of course, but also in Orange County. Councilmember Weiss.
And just to tag on to that, I read with interest the comments that some of the Carlsbad council members made in regards to our project, which isn't defined yet. And I'm just curious as to when Carlsbad is going to be starting the process of removing the 6 groins they already have.
The jetties, as they explained, were done before the Coastal Act.
They have 6 man-made structures that stick out into the ocean and retain sand.
Before the Coastal Act. Yeah. Deputy Mayor Kine.
Since we're doing council comments twice tonight, I'll go again. So for the last 20 years, a failure of leadership has let our beaches almost disappear. And now when a majority of council goes forward with some solution and trying to be creative to fix our beaches. I mean, we have 2/3 of our beaches have no dry sand left. And it's the #1 recreational activity for our citizens. It's something I've done my entire life here. It's something I take my daughter to almost every day in the summer. And I'm glad we're moving forward. I wish that the entire council, all 5 of us, could get on board, be positive, and work with our neighboring cities instead of using it as a political tool to divide us and actually get something done. Because it hasn't been done for 20 years, and we're finally making some progress, and I'm very happy about it. Thank you very much.
So I did lead on the 2 regional projects for the city of Oceanside. I was on this shoreline study, a shoreline preservation working group. So on those 2 projects, I was the lead on that. I also brought before the council a project that was very successful in Solana Beach, and that was doing a TOT increase to be able to pay for sand replenishment on a much more regular basis, in addition to the dredging that we have through the Army Corps. And unfortunately, I couldn't even get a second for that. So yes, I have been trying to lead, but unfortunately, the council has really just not been there. Unfortunately, it's just not been there. I am happy that we are finally moving together with the other North Coastal cities and that this is going to be a joint project, basically looking at it from a regional perspective, because that's what sand is. It is a regional project. And it also, with respect to that, should be a regional funding project as well. So I'm really excited that we are working, and I don't know, Councilmember Keim, if you are as well, but I am working with the other cities. It's really, really exciting that we all basically are on the same page. And having said that, Councilmember Jensen, did you want to make a report?
Yes, I would. Well, I'd like to comment on what is being said here because I think everybody on this council cares about the sand. I think it's a priority for everybody in Oceanside. I think it's not fair to say that nobody's working together on the sand, and you've brought these proposals forward for sand that everybody has turned down. That's just ridiculous. Sand is a priority for everybody on this council and always has been. That's it.
Councilmember Jensen, I have never said it's not a priority. I think it's a priority for everyone to ensure that we get sand on our beach. The idea is how we're going to be going about it and to make sure it happens. Thank you. Good night. Meeting adjourned to a council workshop that is February 2nd, 2022, to discuss a solid waste recycling and organics collection and processing franchise agreement. Thank you.